time for Cubs baseball. Again from a sold-out Busch Memorial Stadium in St. Louis, the Cubs and Cardinals resume hostilities and play the third and final game of this three-game series on the banks of the mighty Mississippi. Hello again, everybody. I'm Chip Curry, joined by Steve Stone. Welcome to Cubs baseball. And frankly, Stoney, the Cubs sorely need a win here in this ball game. The Cardinals have taken the first two, a blowout in game one, one of the best games you'll ever want to see. A 9-8 win for St. Louis yesterday.
It was a gut-wrenching loss yesterday, and we'll take a look at the standings in the wild card race. The Cubs still with a half-game lead over the Mets. However, as you'll see, the Mets with one less loss than the Cubs, so they've got some doubleheaders to play. Hopefully they'll split them or lose them.
What a ball game yesterday here in St. Louis. Cardinals won it 9-8 in 13 innings, and if you bought a ticket to this ball game, you got your money's worth and more.
You came for one reason, that's to see Big Mac and Sammy, and neither disappointed. The 46th home run of the year by Big Mac. And at the time, the Cubs were still ahead, so they could give up the home run and not worry about too much.
It was a 3-1 game at that point. Then in the ninth, Sammy Sosa, after a leadoff walk, hit the big home run to tie the game at 5-5, his 44th.
This one just barely getting out of the ballpark, but it gave the Cubs a huge lift, tying it in the ninth, and they head into extra innings. And here's a big play. Jeff Blauser lets the ball go right under his glove, and unfortunately, that set the stage for a McGuire matchup with Beck. He got him out. Unlike Langford, who hit a forkball out of the ballpark, this game tied at 7.
Talk about a guy that went from goat to hero. That would be Langford. He had struck out 5 times, and then Eli Marrero ties the game again.
Once again, it's a forkball, and now they load the bases. Bring in 5 infielders, but it doesn't matter because Ray Langford, who had the 5 strikeout collar, went 2 for his last 2, driving in 3 runs and winning the ball game. And there you see what the Redbirds have done so far against Cub pitching. They've murdered them. So the one thing you know about the Cubs today, they need a long performance out of Don Wenger because, Chip, that bullpen is exhausted.
In fact, if Wenger can't go a lot today, Steve Traxel will see bullpen duty. He's going to pitch out of the pen today. As far as the rest of this road trip, we will see how the rotation will shore up. But, Stoney, it's obvious this ball club needs a big lift from the pitching staff. They've made some moves to shore up the bullpen. You talked with Andy McPhail. Are there any other moves forthcoming for the Cubs now?
Before the game,
Well, after a 13-inning classic in every regard but the final outcome for the Cubs, today the Cardinals and the Cubs wrap up the 3-game series here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. A devastating loss for the Cubs, but you wouldn't know it by being in the clubhouse before the game. The guys were switching uniforms. That's Lance Johnson wearing Mickey Morandini's uniform. Lance, of course, traded with him. The best look of all was Rod Beck putting his hair up underneath his hat, and Henry Rodriguez wearing a towel and Rod Beck's jersey with the hair flapping off the back of the hat before the ball game here in St. Louis. And certainly, Stoney, that's the kind of levity you need after a 9-8 game like yesterday.
It was a very tough game, but as you said, Chip, you'd never know it by going in the clubhouse before the game. The team is loose. They know that you have to put yesterday behind you. There's nothing you can do about the first 2 games of this series. They have to take care of business right now. Even with a couple of disasters here, they still have a half-game lead in the wild card, and they're still the team to catch.
And so here's the Cubs Pepsi lineup as we wrap up the 3-game series. Jeff Blauser leads it off with short. Morandini at second. Mark Grace will hit third. Then it's Sosa, Hill, Hernandez, Lance Johnson in center against the left-hander, Scott Service, and Don Wenger. Need a long outing from Wenger if possible today against the Cardinals.
And the defense for Tony La Russa and the Cardinals, Gant, Langford, and Jordan left to right. Tatis, Ordaz, Kelly, and McGuire in the infield. A battery of Tom Lankin and Darren Oliver. Oliver 0-1 in his 1 start. And he's a hard-throwing left-hander who has some control problems at times. Now with Texas, and that's where he came in the Stottlemyre deal, he was 6-7 with a huge ERA of 6.53 in 19 games. He is a fastball, kind of a slurve-type pitcher. He does have a changeup, but as we said, he has problems getting it over the plate.
And you don't think Tony La Russa was especially pumped up after yesterday's ball game? That was one of the great shots that we've seen in baseball this year, was La Russa pumping his fist after that ball rocketed through the infield in the 13th to get the Cardinals to win.
It's been a very disappointing year for the Cardinals as they saw their starting rotation dissolve. We know the bullpen problems that they've had, having to mix and match with different people. Jeff Brantley not back 100%. They expect his arm to be better next year. But this is a team going through some trying times, yet they've won 4 games in a row, looking for number 5 today. The Cubs are trying to reverse that trend. And there's a look at Billy Williams, who, along with Ron Santo, will be going back for the funeral of Jack Brickhouse in Chicago.
And all of us, of course, again, extend our sympathies to Pat and the entire Brickhouse family. We certainly will miss Jack, and his memory will live on forever with all of us who love Cubs baseball and his contributions to Chicago sports for so many wonderful years in the Windy City. There's Don Wengert. He'll take the ball today. A hot and muggy day in St. Louis. They've had threatening weather throughout the weekend here along the banks of the mighty Mississippi, but we expect to get the ball game in without much difficulty. And thank goodness there is no longer the AstroTurf, the artificial surface here, because it would be miserable down on that field.
The right-hander should look away early in the count from Oliver, who tries to get ahead with fastballs away.
So we're underway from Busch. Jeff Blauser leads things off, and there is a fastball away, says Tom Hallion. And it's strike one to the Cubs shortstop. Blauser originally drafted by the St. Louis team, but did not sign. And then was picked up, of course, by the Atlanta Braves. 0-2 from Oliver, the son of Bob Oliver, former major leaguer, as we try to continue home run derby today from St. Louis. Back to the mound. Oliver will retire Blauser easily. Oliver, big man, 6'2", 210 pounds, just 27 years of age.
Well, there's no doubt that the Cardinals think he's going to get better and better. And they believe that perhaps a change of scenery, a new league for him, will do wonders. Now, he has a tendency to keep the ball up in the strike zone, however.
1 ball, no strikes to Mickey Morandini, who's closing in on a milestone. You see what he's done against the Cardinals. Mickey needs 29 hits for 1,000 in his major league career. The way he's been hitting the baseball, that might be in a couple of weeks.
They play him straight away with Gant fairly shallow in left field.
On the outside edge, 1-2.
Now, bear in mind, this is the first look for most of these guys at Darren Oliver.
And he looks like he has a very easy motion out on that mound, very fluid.
Kind of deceptive because he is a big man and he comes from 3/4. So far we haven't seen the breaking ball.
But you might hear. Nope, fastball, pop foul out of play. Mickey stays alive. 2 balls, 2 strikes. We jet on out to San Francisco after the game today and open up a big 3-game series with the Giants starting tomorrow. The Cardinals will entertain the Mets here.
With the shell-shock Giants, because they have been getting hammered by the Atlanta Braves. And this is what Oliver will do, and this is what the Cubs hope he does a lot of today, and that's walk people.
Especially in front of Grayson Sosa, who would hit next. Mickey pops it foul out of play and stays alive. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Busch Memorial Stadium, a cookie-cutter ballpark. Well, boy, what a job the ownership has done with this place. Swung on, lined into left center field, and it's caught by Langford. 2 down. Of course, they used to have the artificial surface here in St. Louis, but Fred Hanser and his group have done just a great job putting in the natural surface, taking out a lot of the football seats in the upper deck and left, right, and straightaway center field, the big scoreboard up above, and the banners and the retired numbers. This is now one of the nicest ballparks in all of baseball, in my opinion.
Of the bowl ballparks that they built many years ago, this has turned into a real pretty one.
A strike to Grayson. You think about Pittsburgh will be gone in the not-too-distant future. They're going to get a new stadium.
Philadelphia trying, but they're still in the same ballpark.
Atlanta's gone. They've done a great job with this place. Mark trying to get out of the way of that pitch. Is going to ground out to short, and the Cubs are retired. 1, 2, 3 in the first. So the mound will be occupied by Don Wengert in a scoreless game after a half inning. Half of the first here under the shadows of the Gateway Arch. Here's a look at the Cardinals starting lineup with Kelly, Jordan, and McGuire. Ray Langford, Ron Gant, Fernando Tatis. Ben Lampkin, the pitcher, Darren Oliver hits 8th, and Luis Ordaz, the shortstop, will hit 9th.
The Pepsi defense for Jim Riggleman and the Cubs. Hill, Johnson, and Sosa left to right. Hernandez, Blauser, Morandini, and Grace in the infield. The battery of Scott Service and Don Wengert will be making his 4th start of the year. He's 1-1, ERA 5.49. And the one thing that you certainly need from him if you're Jim Riggleman is a lot of innings today. The bullpen has been used and abused in both the 16-3 Friday night debacle and yesterday's 13-inning affair.
So Pat Kelly will start the proceedings for the Redbirds here. This guy has come out of nowhere to be the likely starting second baseman for the St. Louis team in the 1999 season. Kelly hitting .273 with a home run, 9 runs batted in. They got him for $20,000, I think.
From Syracuse, and he's one of the guys that will bunt to either side, either third or first. He likes to push the ball, but we haven't seen a lot of it in this series.
Swung on, hit high in the air into center, and former Cardinal Lance Johnson will put that away for out number 1.
And here's a man that means so much to this team, and so far they've had a hard time signing him. One of the reasons they offered him a contract that was laden with incentives. And they were basically, if you stay healthy, we're going to pay you. But he looked at the contract Ray Langford signed, and it wasn't laden with incentives. And he says, look, all I'm asking for is similar type deal. So far they haven't been able to come to terms, but this is a guy they could ill afford to lose.
Boy, could they ill afford that at all. You're right. 7th highest batting average at .326, 17 homers, 67 batted in.
Andy McPhail, Walt Jocketty, the general manager of the Cardinals, talking it over. And as far as Gary Gaetti is concerned, he really has a couple of different choices. Obviously, if he wants to play, Cleveland would be the place. With Tomei hurt, Travis Fryman missing a ball game, Gaetti would have a lot of opportunity to play. Now, if he wants to come to the Cubs, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for them, he would be used as a backup to Jose Hernandez and a man who would come off the bench and try to win games late. So I guess knocking at the door of 40, it all depends what Gaetti wants to do.
Well, he said earlier this year that he would be willing to play for free at Wrigley Field. I'd like to see if he's a man of his word.
That will be put to the test,
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Well, he just crushes the ball at the friendly confines. And were Gaetti to sign with a team like the Cubs, it would give that man even more flexibility. You could rest Jeff Blauser, put Jose at shortstop, have Gaetti at third. He could play some first base for you if you needed to give Grace a day off.
Well, the speculation is that's where he would immediately play if he decided to go to the Indians, whose need becomes more apparent with Tomei out from 4 to 6 weeks.
With a broken bone in his hand. That ball slapped out of play by Jordan, who, if he doesn't want to play baseball here, maybe the Bears could sign this guy and have him play in the defensive secondary again. This guy was a terror as a member of the Atlanta Falcons.
Tony's been through a lot of pitchers. Maybe he's seeing if his wrist is going to hold up. He might be able to pitch an inning or two today.
The 2-2 pitch swung on, hammered deep toward left center field. Hill on the run. He's got it on the track, and Jordan is retired. That man is immensely strong, and he almost hit one out in yesterday's game, too. Two up, two down, and the roar is for mighty Mark McGwire.
Glenn Allen Hill coasts under this one and has just about 5 feet to spare as he hauls it in the gap.
Well, Sammy Sosa's been Mark McGwire's biggest fan. He's hoping Mark McGwire will fan big right here.
He's fanned a few times this year. He's also walked an inordinate amount of times as teams continue to pitch around him.
Swing and a miss, 1-1. McGwire hitting .288 on the year. If you ask 10 baseball fans what McGwire's batting average was, I would imagine most of them would have no clue. The Cubs have pitched him pretty tough. He's hitting .235 against us this year.
He's also walked 119 times this year, as many teams don't take any chances with him. But with Langford hitting as well as he's hit, that gives him a lot of protection behind him.
2 balls, 1 strike to McGwire. 3 balls and a strike.
The Combat Power Profile is Mark McGwire's season up to date. Looking the slugging percentage, 46-103, and the fans booing Wenger for not getting the ball over the plate.
They want to see Mac hit. Breaking ball, strike! Call. McGwire thought it was outside. 3-2.
Well, the problem is, if you do walk McGwire, the hottest hitter on this team since the All-Star break is in the on-deck circle, and that's Ray Langford.
And he's had an otherworldly kind of season against Cub pitching. The payoff. Swing and a foul ball past Rene Latchman, the third base coach, who is ready to man the tarp down the third base line.
Yes, Rene gets in different spots depending on the count. Right now he's in I'm going to move so far back you can't hit me position.
If he had a chance, he'd build a bunker down there. The 3-2. Swing and a miss. Blew him away with a fastball. And McGuire and the Cardinals are out in order in their half of the first. Here comes Sammy leading off the second. On we go to the second inning with Steve Stone, Chip Carey. Here's Sosa against Darren Oliver.
Sammy loves left-handers, especially hard-throwing lefties, and he's going to see a lot of fastballs from Oliver.
Downstairs, 2 balls, no strikes, and now the Cub fans boo as Oliver falls behind.
Oliver gave up a lot of home runs in the American League because he would fall behind, and then he'd get the fastball up and out over the plate.
Popped up, foul out of play. And the count moves to 2-1. Sammy Sosa, 308 average, 44 home runs, 114 driven in. He trails McGuire in the home run chase by just 2. That'll reach the seats. Steve in the count 2-2. Sammy is having an MVP kind of season. And if the Cubs make the postseason, he's got to be the MVP with the kind of numbers he's put up. At least
home run
thinking
leader
offensively.
As you see, and I agree with you, Chip, he's certainly going to be 1 and 2 on just about everybody's ballots. The only question is then how many will he receive, but he will get serious consideration.
3-2 pitch rifled down the right field line, but into the seats.
And all he did yesterday was hit a 2-run homer to tie it in the 9th. And then he came up and hit a base hit that put the Cubs on top briefly in the 12th.
Again, the 3-2. Swung on, popped up again out of play. Boy, he's getting some good looks at Oliver here. Sammy was funny. Again, we showed you during the pregame some of the Cub players switched jerseys. Blauser wore Sosa's uniform. Sammy wore Jeff's, and he said, Blauser wears my uniform for a minute, and he's already doing interviews. The pitch is inside ball 4.
Now, the one thing you have to watch with Oliver is he's got a very good pickoff move. If you can avoid the pickoff move, he's easy to steal on. And there are the 2 prodigious home run hitters. As you can see, McGuire much bigger than Sammy. They both have enormous power, however, as does Glenn Allen Hill, by the way.
And he's the man in the batter's box. Hill swung late, fouled it off. Hill knows Oliver from his days in the American League. So it's 0-1. Boy, during batting practice, McGuire was launching shots into Big Mac land up in the upper deck in left, and Sammy was standing at the batting cage like a 6-year-old in awe of the blasts McGuire was hitting. After every one, he was cheering, clapping, going crazy down there. No balls and a strike. Sosa, a good lead at first. Now time is called.
Well, there is the stockbroker's dream shot. Sammy Sosa, Mark McGuire.
That must be why Arnie got it. The pitch is outside, and the count evens 1-1. A lot of big numbers put up by those 2 men. And Glenn Allen Hill today hopeful of putting some big numbers up himself.
If you pull the ball, you can get it out of here in a hurry. Only 330 down the line, and it rockets out of here. Oliver will try to turn over his changeup, and usually it kind of sinks away from the right-hand hitter. It's a good pitch when you need a ground ball.
1 ball, 1 strike. Another good lead by Sammy from first. Oliver comes home. The delivery is high. Well, I don't know about you, but as a Cub fan, I was exhausted after that game yesterday. Just the emotional roller coaster that We rode for 4 hours and 20 minutes during that ball game.
It was probably the most exciting game of the year. Obviously, the ending wasn't what you looked for, but the rest of the game was just quite a contest.
Popped up out of play, 2-2.
Anytime you see home runs late, home runs that ostensibly are going to win the game, or home runs to tie it up, it certainly gave the fans their money's worth and then some. A couple of managers who know they have depleted bullpens today, and they're both looking for long outings out of their starters.
Two and two. Swung on, popped up out of play. Well, one reason why the skipper might be in such a cheerful mood today, again, he was one of the uniform switchers. Jose Hernandez wore his uniform, and Jose took off his undershirt underneath to show off the bulging biceps, just like the skipper did, and Riggs thought it was hilarious. He was doubled over with laughter. It was a funny sight in the clubhouse this morning. The 2-2. Runner goes. Pitch swung on, hammered into center. It's going to be caught, however, by Ray Langford. Good at bat from Glenn Allen Hill. He hit the ball right on the button, but flies out to center, and Sosa's at first with one away.
Jose Hernandez hit a home run yesterday, his 17th, giving him 56 driven in.
How about that? Roger Clemens in a tie game with a no-hitter, however, for the Blue Jays. And I know you're going to say Ben Greaves going to break it up, so I'm not going to even bother to ask.
I think professional hitter Matt Stairs will break it up.
Matt Stairs. Well, we will check that out.
Assuming he's playing.
That's exactly right. Well, you know Ben Greaves in there, so that's why I picked him. Here's Jose. Off speed misses. Ball one.
John Walgren informs us that Matt Stairs is indeed in the game. So he'll be our pick to click.
Okay. Works for me.
Outfield very deep all the way around. Jordan's just about as deep as he can get in right field. That shows you the respect for the power of Hernandez.
He's just trying to find a shady spot out there. It's hot today. Hot, hot, hot in St. Louis. Two balls, no strikes to the Cub third baseman. Again, Sammy measures off a short lead from first now. The delivery is outside. 3-0.
Well, if you're patient enough with Darren Oliver, he will walk himself into trouble. You don't get a 6.5 ERA with good control. Not when you have the kind of stuff he has, which is usually pretty good.
And there's ball four. First and second with one out. Second walk of the game and the inning. News on the baseball wire today. Jim Lefever's been hired by Milwaukee as hitting coach. Lamar Johnson was fired after they were shut out again. And Travis Lee's been activated by the Diamondbacks.
Lefever already paying benefits. They're leading 1-0 after 4. After 2 shutouts.
Here's Lance Johnson. Lance was the Cubs' 5th infielder in the 13th inning of that game yesterday.
And Langford still was able to shoot the ball through, even with the pitcher and 5 infielders.
I asked Ray about it before the game today. I said, how'd you do that? He said, I don't know. I just hit it hard, and it found an open spot. Johnson hits the ball hard, but it's going to fly to left. Gant the catch. Tagging from second, moving to third on a heads-up play is Sammy Sosa.
Well, that wasn't a particularly intelligent at-bat for the simple reason you got a pitcher struggling with his control. And Oliver has been known to have a lot of control problems. He's already walked 2 men in the inning. And Lance swings at a high fastball out away and flies out on 1 pitch. So for the moment at least, he helps out Oliver.
And now Scott Service becomes the key man in the inning. With runners at the corners and 2 outs in a scoreless duel so far in St. Louis.
Well, if you know the tendency of Oliver, that is to stay away from the right-handers on the first pitch. Hitting to right field's a nice idea.
0-1. Sosa's at third. Jose is at first. The Cubs trying to break through first. They've led in each of the first 2 games of this series, but haven't been able to hang on.
Langford is shading over toward right center field. Now you see how they defend Scott Service, so there is a gap in left center and down the line in left.
Ripped to right and just foul out of play.
Well, that's what Scott was trying to do, but unfortunately that line drive on the wrong side of the line.
So he's down to his last strike, 0-2.
California Angels had their juggernaut interrupted last night with a doubleheader loss to the White Sox, putting them 3 games in back of the Texas Rangers. Now, we all know how active Texas was before the trade deadline. Anaheim chose to do very little, and they're paying the price.
I was shocked that they didn't try to, or not that they didn't try to do more, but that they weren't able to accomplish more than what they did.
Well, if you read some of the quotes by Bill Bavasi, they were kind of interesting. He said, "It's my fault. I tried. I didn't get the job done." And he said, "I have to take the blame for that. Now I'll have to try to do it through the waiver wire."
A dribbler toward third. Tatis will go to second. Close play. Ball dropped. Everybody's safe. Sosa scores. Jose hits toward third. He's going to make it safely. And the Cubs get a break and lead it 1-0.
I don't know why you don't go to first base on that play, because it's going to be a very close play at second anyway, and you know Service doesn't run. But he goes to second, and Kelly just misses it. So we'll see who the error is charged on as the Cubs get a break indeed, and they go on top 1-0. Tatis has a history of being erratic with that arm. He's got a great arm, and that one just got away from Kelly.
So it's 1-0, no RBI for Service. Hernandez at third, Scott's at first. That brings the pitcher up, Don Wingert, and he's 0 for 11 on the year, ball 1. Well, there's another start for the Cubs, who led game 1 3-0, led yesterday 3-0, and now lead 1-0 today. Now let's see if we can polish these guys off. That misses high, 2-0. Oliver throwing a lot of pitches early in this ball game.
He looked in at Tom Hallion wanting to know where that pitch was. Now, bear in mind, he's trying to make the adjustment. You're not going to get too many high strikes in the National League.
2 balls and a strike. Atlanta will battle the Giants later. The pitch is low. The Mets nipping at our heels. We'll be in Colorado later. 3 balls and a strike to the Cub pitcher, Don Wingert. Here it is. Ball 4, he walked him, and the bases are loaded. 3 walks in the inning.
And they want to send out Tom Lampkin to talk with Darren Oliver. You saw Dave Duncan say, "Get out there and say something." Something along the lines of, "Why don't you try getting the ball over the plate?"
That would be a start. Who was the best catcher that would chew you out on the mound when you needed it, when you were a pitcher that you had?
Most catchers.
Were most of them afraid of you?
No, Rick Dempsey was pretty good at coming out there and letting you know it was time to get the ball over.
Blauser swings at the first pitch, and he pops it out of play, foul. 0-1.
The problem was usually I was getting it over too much, and they were hitting it too hard, as opposed to walking myself into some difficulty.
Like, don't be afraid to miss their bat every now and then, right?
Let me see what kind of stuff you have. Let me catch one every now and then.
I'm wearing a glove for a reason, you know.
And a base hit here would look awfully good for the Cubs.
Jeff taps back to the mound back in the first inning. He becomes the 7th man to hit here in the second inning.
Bear in mind, they're going to run every chance they get on Gant, but Jordan has a great arm in right field.
0-1 to Blauser, the pitch. Nearly hit him. 1-1. Cardinal fans getting restless here in St. Louis. A grand salami would be nice here. He's hit 4 of them. The pitch swung on, lined into shallow left center field. On comes Langford. He's got it. And the inning is over. The Cubs get a gift run, but we'll take it after 1.5. Cubs 1, Cardinals nothing. We go to the bottom of the second inning here. It's 1-0 in favor of the Cubs. Throwing or fielding. I haven't heard who the error was on.
I think the error was on Tatis at third, but we never got any official announcement. It looks like he threw a slider to Pat Kelly, and it just kind of moved away from him. In any event, the Cubs do get a run without the benefit of a hit, and they did pick up 3 walks, and unfortunately only came away with the 1 run. So it's nice to see your mother in the booth.
Hey, well, I grew up in St. Louis. There's my mom, Lila Haberberger's here. How are you, Mom? It's good to see you. Now, take lipstick stuff.
And now, what did she do? She got a Mark McGwire autographed baseball before the game.
I know. She's a Cardinal fan. We can overlook that, though. She's going to be in our booth. But it's great to have you here, Mom. You look terrific. Good deal. Good deal. Well, it's a beautiful day. It'll be even more fun if we win. And there is your guy. There's the Mark McGwire shot. Be still her beating heart. She's almost as excited to see Mark McGwire as Arnie Harris. No balls and a strike to Ray Langford. A fine Cardinals center fielder who's having a great year here in St. Louis. Did you know that this guy is the all-time home run hitter in this ballpark now, Ray Langford?
Just eclipsed one Ted Simba Simmons,
who was my childhood hero growing up here in St. Louis.
Mine
hitting
too.
Catcher. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Langford, who's been signed to that aforementioned contract through the year 2003. This guy, I would guess, Steve, he's the guy that has the most pressure on him in the Cardinal lineup because he has to protect Mark McGwire.
Well, he hasn't shown it the second part of this year. He has been red hot.
Rocket up the middle and past Blauser into center field for a hit. Langford has absolutely killed the Cubs all year long. .346 batting average coming into today's play. That's his 10th hit and 27 at-bats.
Ray just goes down and gets this pitch out away. That's a good piece of hitting. That fastball low and away is tough to handle, and if you try to pull it, you're ground out. Leading off innings, Ray Langford hitting .433. He'd make an excellent leadoff hitter, and he was, in fact, a leadoff hitter till he got a lot bigger and a lot stronger and became a run producer. Now he is a terrific base runner. Stolen 15 bases, been caught 3 times, so you have to watch him closely.
And a man in the batter's box, a man that can hurt you as well. Ron Gant hitting just .221, but has hit 18 home runs. He's driven in 46, 17 of those runs in the last 19 Cardinal games. But I would think the fans here in St. Louis are a little disappointed with what they've gotten out of Ron Gant after signing him to that big contract.
18 home runs doesn't sound like much until you say that he's hit only 253 times. Over a full season, that's a 40 home run year. So he hasn't been able to stay healthy. When he has, he's been a devastating force.
Wangert misses low and outside with ball 1 to Ron Gant. A 1-0 Cub game in the St. Louis second.
If they could keep Gant healthy and in the lineup, here's a guy that gives you a rare combination of speed and power. And for a guy who does hit the ball hard, he's only grounded into 5 double plays this year, so that shows you he can run.
1 ball, no strikes. Swing and a miss. Tell you a little bit about Ron Gant. He started as an infielder in the Atlanta organization. A second baseman, then a third baseman, had all kinds of fielding problems. He volunteered to go all the way down to A-ball to learn how to play the outfield. This is for a guy that was an established major league player. Went down, learned how to play the outfield, came back up with the Atlanta team, and was very instrumental in their success in the early part of this decade.
Then they decided after a terrible motorcycle accident in which he actually crushed his leg that maybe he wouldn't be able to play again. But Jim Bowden took a chance, paid him a half-year's salary, and he became a very good player for Cincinnati, so much so that he signed a huge free agent contract here in St. Louis.
Pitch out, nothing happening, 2 balls and a strike. Well, I wonder who will be the odd man out for this Cardinal team when J.D. Drew comes a-calling in spring training next year.
A lot depends on what they do with a man in right field. Brian Jordan, you would love to sign him. And then if you do, you have a lot of trade possibilities.
And we know the Cardinals need pitching. Double play ball to short. Blauser kicks that. Boy, oh boy. He's having an awful time with the glove. 3 errors in the last 2 games.
That should have been an easy 2. It was hit right at Blauser. And not much you can say. It's a physical error, and you can't do anything about the physical errors. But Jeff Blauser has had a year that he would just as soon forget. He was trying to flip it before he caught it, and it goes as error number 12. And let's see if Don Wenger can fight his way through that. There should be 2 out, nobody on. Instead, 2 on, nobody out. Huge difference, a lot more pitches, and some pretty dangerous hitters.
And Tatis now stands in, the young third baseman they got from the Rangers in the Stottlemyre deal. This guy from the Dennis Rodman School of Hair Design. Bright yellow locks under that Cardinal helmet. Can't see him under that batting helmet, but what you can see are some pretty good offensive numbers.
He can wear his hair any way he wants if he can hit like that. And they think he's going to get stronger. He has 24 home runs in the minor leagues, was a line drive hitter with the Texas Rangers, and he uses the whole field.
The 1-0. Foul backing out of play, 2 even the count. A ball and a strike.
Now, bear in mind, they paid dearly for Tatis and Oliver. They gave up Clayton, their everyday shortstop, and Todd Stottlemyre, who's going to be a free agent. However, there's rampant speculation here that when Stottlemyre becomes a free agent, he will come right back here to St. Louis because of his association with La Russa and especially Dave Duncan. So they think they got a couple of players for him and still might get him back in the offseason. Not a bad deal.
Those are the kind of trades GMs love to make. All it costs you is Royce Clayton for Stottlemyre, Tatis, and Oliver. Not a bad deal if it works out that way.
That would be a dandy, and Walt Jocketty figures he might be in the catbird seat next year because if he does get Stottlemyre back, Alan Bennis will be back at the end of this year. Matt Morris is healthy again.
Donovan Osborne coming back.
And Donovan Osborne coming back, although he has had a history of being hurt.
Strike on the outside corner. Tough pitch. Went the Cubs' way there, 2-2.
Tom Hallion said this was good enough. And we'll agree with him if you're a Cub fan.
Two balls, 2 strikes. The pitch. Got him swinging with a breaking ball. Big strikeout for Wengert now. And Tom Lampkin, the Cardinal catcher, bats with 1 out.
A good hard slider by Wengert. And this one is the best he's thrown today. He fans Tatis. And now you're 1 ground ball away from getting out of it. And you'd rather see Lampkin than Marrero. Marrero has been devastating, but apparently after 2 games they decided to sit him out. He was having a leg problem or so, and they decided to rest him. And in fact had the 7th spot in the batting order empty until just before the game when they inserted the name of Lampkin over Marrero.
Lampkin takes a strike, hitting .240, 4 homers, 24 batted in. Tom Pagnozzi also sitting. What are they going to do at the catcher spot? I guess Marrero's going to be the guy next year.
Marrero's the guy. Pagnozzi's had a lot of shoulder problems over the last 2 years. And you got to figure that Marrero will be getting better and better. He'll be your guy every day.
0-1 to Lampkin. Swung on, high fly ball hit lazily into center field. Johnson will make the catch. Langford fakes a tag, does not advance, and there are 2 men out. So give Wengert a tip of the cap so far in this inning. 2 on, nobody out. He's gotten a strikeout, a harmless fly out. Now here's where, for Tony La Russa, the pitcher batting 8th comes back to maybe haunt him, as Oliver bats trailing now with 2 outs.
The Astros leading 1-0 in the first. They came back in their last at-bat for the 18th time this year, and they beat the Phillies last night. In fact, they came back from a 5-1 deficit, fell behind 6-5, heading into the bottom of the 9th inning, and won at 7-6 out of all things. They hit batsmen.
So here's Oliver. He spent a little time on the disabled list with Texas this year. He strained a muscle in his shoulder swinging a bat against Colorado.
He was used as a pinch hitter by Tony La Russa. That was yesterday when he grounded to first.
1 ball, 1 strike to Oliver, 0 for 3 as a Cardinal. One nothing in favor of the Cubs. We're in the 2nd inning. 2 outs, 2 on. A single, an error by Blauser. But 2 outs by Wengert. 6 in the pitch, swung on, fouled back. Good cut, 1-2. Milwaukee blanking Cincinnati 4-0, as Steve mentioned earlier. Diamondbacks won Montreal 0. Travis Lee activated for Arizona. Later on, the Marlins are in San Diego, the Mets in Colorado, Pittsburgh against the Dodgers, the Braves battle the Giants. Swing and a miss. Oliver strikes out. How about Don Wengert's second inning? 2 on, nobody out. 2 strikeouts and a flyout preserves a 1-0 Cub lead. Well, Jeff Pentland obscuring Don Wengert, who did a great job. And how about that sign?
Not bad. The fact that I have it is still encouraging to me, whether it's cool or not. And it's not cool for that man. It is blazing hot on the field, but Don Wengert got himself out of a difficult situation in the second. Now he turns it back to his offense, and what for the Cubs truly is a must-win situation.
They come in just a half game ahead of New York in the wild card race, and trailing Houston now by 6.5 ball games. Boy, that Houston team has just taken off. The huge emotional lift of getting Randy Johnson and the huge sellout crowds, and now a home tilt in their schedule, all have paid dividends for them.
52,000 plus to see the big unit shut down the Phillies.
Mickey Morandini flied to center his first time up, and the count even to him, 1-1. Tony Batista just hit a solo home run for Arizona. They now lead Montreal 2-0. Diamondbacks playing much better baseball of late, and you would expect them to continue to do that with Lee back in the lineup and Matt Williams as well.
I'm going to assume that Roger Clemens does not have his no-hitter. Thing is, it is now 3-1.
You are correct. I believe it was A.J. Hinch that
Oh, no.
He didn't miss by much. The other guy was in the lineup, though. 1-2 to Morandini. Keep hearing whispers that Art Howe might be in trouble out in Oakland. They haven't had many winning seasons the last couple of years with that athletic team, but in fairness to Art Howe, they haven't had a whole lot of talent either. They traded away Mark McGwire from him, got some prospects from the Cardinals. But now they've got Ben Grieve, they've got Hinch, they've got some other young everyday players who just need to learn how to play at the major league level. The whisper we hear is that Bob Boone might be the guy that's selected to replace Howe if and when he is relieved of his duties. First strikeout for Oliver here in the third. Morandini, the leadoff man, is struck out swinging.
Here's that little slurve halfway between a slider and a curve that he throws to the left-handers. It's a pretty good pitch, and bear in mind, Mickey hadn't seen it. He's seen a steady diet of fastballs, and the first one struck him out. So Mark Grace, who ducked out of the way of a high-side fastball only to ground out, getting his second at-bat.
And Mark takes a strike.
He was going to drag bunt. The flying feet of Mark Grace almost came into play. That shows you the left-hander might be a little tough.
1-1 the count. Grace slapped the ball to short and was retired in the first. Popped up out of play. Want to send along get well greetings to Earl Rappaport. Watching the ball game. He's been under the weather for quite a bit of time. Ed's daughter Tracy Rappaport Duffy sends us that get well request via the email. And we're glad to be able to do that, Tracy and Earl. Hope you're feeling better. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Now Jim Riggleman came out to talk with Tom Hallion. I'm not sure what exactly it was about, but Tom Hallion, after a couple of words, just waved them away. So if we can find out what he was talking about, we will let you know. Perhaps Oliver went to his mouth on the hill.
Which is a no-no. Again, the ball popped out of play, 1-2.
Mark Grace against right-handers, excellent, and very good against left-handers. Anytime a left-hander is hitting in the 280s against other left-handers, he's pretty tough. And the key is that right side. You have to keep it in.
2 balls, 2 strikes. A walk ahead of Sosa would be nice. A hit ahead of Sosa would be nice. The 2-2 pitch. Ground ball to second. Kelly will gobble that up, and we'll throw him out at first. 2 down.
The infield grass is very fast, but the infield dirt here has been problematic for the guys who have to field ground balls. Apparently, there was a lot of moisture under the tarp when it rained very hard here in St. Louis. It's caused the infield to be very soft, and consequently, you're getting a lot of bad hops, and it's very sandy, as you can see. So difficult time for the infielders and a difficult time for pitchers when they face those guys.
Sammy walked and scored the only Cub run back in the second inning. He swings the first ball, pops it a mile high into the air, back behind home plate and into the seats for strike one.
I'd like to say hello to Paul, Gene, and Mark Dunnett, watching the game on WGN TV. Their twin daughters, Mary and Mona, here enjoying the game.
No balls and a strike. Folks in left better get their gloves up. The pitch misses away, and the count evens 1-1.
Matthew and Colleen Yeager at the game today. Delivered a cigar from Father Ryan of Maryville Academy.
What a rip Sammy had, but he missed it. And now he's behind 1-2. Two outs, bases clear in the Cubs' third. It's a 1-0 Cub lead. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Sammy looking for something out over the plate, preferably down from Oliver.
That pitch up and in. Tatis knocked it down, can't pick it up, and Sammy's got an infield hit. That's the first Cub hit of the ball game. But Tatis with great range at third.
Pretty good effort by Tatis. From the left field camera, we'll take a look at what probably should have been a double. It's right down the line. Fernando Tatis able to knock it down, and that's all he could do with it. He does keep Sammy at first base, but he sets the stage for Glenn Allen Hill. This should be a good matchup for Hill.
He flied to center his first time up. Sammy a big lead, draws a throw, and he's back to first standing up.
It was nice to see your mother here. I know
Absolutely.
that you were raised in St. Louis. I thought it was by wolves.
Oh, boy, I'm tempted. And a balk is called. Oliver didn't stop, and Sosa to second on the balk.
Well, balk and Bob Davidson is going to call a balk, and Tony La Russa can't believe it. But Bob Davidson right on the call, and that's not the first balk he's called this year. Tony can't believe it. Watch it again, and we'll watch Oliver. Goes in his motion. And I'm not sure why that was a balk.
It looked like Davidson said either he didn't pause or he had a hitch, or
You don't have to pause when you throw to first.
or he brought that leg behind his
Well, there you
back
go.
leg to throw to first.
That might have been it. If you take that front leg back over the pitching rubber, you have to come home with it.
So an RBI chance for Hill, who swings and misses. Good speed at second, and Hill behind a quick strike, 0-1. One nothing Cubs. Nearly hit him with that delivery. It's 1-1. Boy, oh boy, you think of the Cardinals. All those world championships. 1926, 1931, 34, 42, 44, 46. The great teams of the 60s. 1982 in St. Louis. As Hill continues to bat, let's pause for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN, Chicago.
Steve Stone, Chip Carey from Busch Stadium in St. Louis. 1-0 Cubs, the pitch. Bouncing ball to the shortstop. Ordaz unloads quickly. Close play. He beat it out. Glenn Allen Hill hustling down that line. Keeps the inning alive. Boy, for a big man, you really don't realize how fast he is. And now La Russa will argue with Bob Davidson over this and the balk call, too.
I think he might have got him at first base. We'll take a look. He's out at first, and it looked like he was out from up here. And Bob Davidson says he was safe. And there's 2 calls that Tony La Russa doesn't particularly care for from Bob. The balk, that was questionable. That call he missed.
So a big break for the Cubs. First and third with 2 outs now. And Jose Hernandez, the batter. Clearly, you see, he was out by a half step.
Good play by Ordaz, who's got a very strong arm. And he's out. He's still in the air when McGuire has the ball in his glove. So I'm not sure how you missed that one, but he did. And the fans here roundly booing Bob Davidson, but the Cubs will gladly take a couple of breaks, and they've had them this inning.
And Jose Hernandez bats. He walked his first time up. Jose 2-for-7 in the series with a home run, a couple of runs driven in. A hit means the second run of the day. Maybe more. Pitch, first pitch swinging, ground to Kelly. And the flip to the shortstop retires the side. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left after 2.5. Cubs 1, Cardinals nothing. Bottom of the third inning rolls around. 1-0 is our score. And Cubs fans, Thursday, August 20th is Ernie Banks' 1958 MVP Pin Day at Wrigley Field. The first 10,000 adults 21 and older attending the Cubs-Giants game get an Ernie Banks commemorative pin. For tickets, stop by the Wrigley Field box office or call 312-831-CUBS.
I'd like to send along special get-well wishes to Evelyn Johnson, who wished she could be here today. And the Johnson group has 36 in all watching the Cubs.
Yeah, big Johnson group here at Busch Stadium. Luis Ordaz leads things off. Young shortstop hitting 161, no homers, and 4 driven in. Speaking of shortstops, Alex Rodriguez of the Mariners just hit a 3-run homer. Put Seattle in front of the Tigers 6-3. The Mariners bidding to take 4 in a row from Detroit in 3 days. They won a doubleheader on Friday, won yesterday, and are winning again today. They've played pretty good baseball since trading Randy Johnson, too. 1-1. Upstairs, 2 balls and a strike.
Since Tony La Russa decided to hit his pitcher 8th and his shortstop, in this case Ordaz, 9th, his team is 1 over 500. Doesn't sound like much, but then again, it's been that kind of year for St. Louis. They're 5 under 500.
Bouncing ball to short. Blauser gloves this one cleanly and makes a good throw. 1 away. Well, La Russa's never been a guy that's been afraid to try to do something different and innovative. A couple of years ago, was it not La Russa who tried to pitch everybody 3 innings?
Did a little of that, yes, I think when he was in Oakland. Now you have to watch the bunt from Kelly, and with Grace back at first, it might be coming that way. Although this guy has hit the ball very well in this series.
A fly to center his first time up and pops up to right. In foul ground, Grace gives chase and runs out of room.
Now they're going to get Delino DeShields back. The question is when, and they think in the next couple of days. However, what you gain offensively, and DeShields is a fine offensive player. He's hitting .318 and can run the bases. He's stolen 18 bases. And there's a look at Delino. He is not near the defensive player of Pat Kelly.
1 ball, 1 strike. DeShields this year for the Cardinals. 7 errors in 77 games. Swing and a foul tip for strike 2.
It isn't necessarily the balls that he makes errors on, Chip. What it is turning double plays, getting to more balls, and Kelly's just been terrific. He's been a revelation down there at second, and they like him, but he could be odd man out when DeShields comes back.
1-2. 2-2. Well, certainly he would be a more cost-effective alternative to DeShields, who's been around a long time.
Then you'd ask a question, where is DeShields in his contract status, to figure out what exactly will happen next year. This Cardinal team came in as a very high payroll team with high expectations.
Strike 3 called outside corner. 4 strikeouts for Wenger, who's giving the Cubs exactly what they needed today.
Wenger throws a slider on the outside corner. Looks like a pretty decent pitch. Tom Hallion rings him up. So Wenger throwing the ball much better than he did last time out. This is a good lineup for that, for the simple reason that they've got 7 right-hand hitters and just the 2 lefties. For a guy with a good slider, that should play right into your hand.
Brian Jordan rips an extra base hit down the left field line. The ball sticks in the corner, and look at Jordan hustle into second. He'll make it without a throw. And that sets the table for McGuire now to give the Cardinals a tie or a lead.
Jordan loves to hit that first pitch, and he just turned on it, rifled it into the corner after flying out very deep to left center field. This time he hits it where nobody can get it. This is out over the plate. Looks like a slider that hung, and he one-hops the wall and winds up with a double. So for Jordan, that's double number 28.
So here's McGuire. He needs 16 home runs in the final 47 Cardinal games to hit 62. 1 ball, no strikes.
You get the feeling that Mac is not having quite as much fun as Sammy is with this year?
No, I don't. And to a certain extent, I can understand why. Talking to the Cardinal guys before the game, they say every time he takes batting practice, it's like it's the 7th game of the World Series. The man gets absolutely no respite. And, of course, the great fans here in St. Louis love to see him hit the home runs in batting practice, and that's fine. But when he goes on the road, there are 150 cameras around the batting cage every time he tries to just get loose for the ball game. And that's where the statement, he felt like a caged animal, came from. But I would say that the approach that he has taken and the approach that Sammy Sosa has taken are very, very different.
McGuire is taking the approach that he thought that one was about 6 to 8 inches outside. Tom Hellion, however, took the approach that he thought it was good enough. And watch it again. That one well off the corner.
2 balls and a strike. 3 balls and a strike. Runner at second, 2 outs.
I would say if Mark doesn't want all the attention, though, Chip, why didn't he just stop hitting home runs?
That's 6.
He'll get very little attention if he hit 20 home runs.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think he can help it. He just flexes those muscles, and the ball explodes off his bat. Now he's walked for the first time in the game. The 120th time on the year. And that's going to really be a key for him.
Well, when you have first base open, you don't want Mark McGuire to be the man that beats you. However, when you have a guy behind you in Ray Lankford who has actually outproduced McGuire the second half of the year, you don't get a great benefit with walking McGuire. You can see how far he leads Barry Bonds and Jeff Bagwell in walks in the National League. Lankford right now swinging the bat exceptionally well, and McGuire really isn't.
But Lankford has been. He singled his first time up, but a base hit here could tie the game. McGuire, of those 120 walks, 26 of them, by the way, have been intentional. Man, oh man, that's unbelievable.
Well, on a base hit here, if one is forthcoming, you have to get the ball into second base. Don't try to throw through. Don't try to get McGuire if he goes to third. Keep the double play in order.
Foul tip back to the screen, 0-2.
This is a man who fanned 5 times yesterday. And Ray Lankford has fanned 114 times this year. So a strikeout here would be key. RBIs the last 10 days. Lankford up there at number 4. Now you can approach him 2 different ways. One over his head or one in the dirt, and Lankford might be swinging.
0-2, runners lead. Ties him up inside. The count, 1 ball, 2 strikes. 1-0 in favor of the Cubs, with the Cardinals threatening in their half of the third.
That's what Jim Riggleman went out and talked with Dave Stevens yesterday about that forkball. He wanted him to throw it in the dirt, thinking that Lankford would still swing at it and at best hit a soft ground ball.
1-2. The pitch. Swung on, high fly ball hit toward left, charging his hill. He can't get it. It's a fair ball and a ground rule double. The game is tied, runners second and third.
Cubs do get another break, because if that stays in the park, it's going to score 2 runs. As it was, it just scores 1. And it's run batted in, number 73. So Ray Lankford, who is swinging a red-hot bat, slices this ball down the line. Glenn Allen Hill can't get to it. Fortunately, it bounces out of play. And that was a very difficult play for Glenn Allen Hill. The ball was slicing away. It wasn't hit all that hard. You had to play him deep to respect the power. And so there's nothing you can do. He just hit it in a perfect spot.
Yeah, you tip your cap, You give the Cardinals the tie, and now you hope Gant doesn't put the Cardinals in front. He reached on a Blauser error his first time up, and the slider misses away. 1 ball, no strikes. Boy, oh boy, if Langford continues to hit like he has in this series, the Cardinals really are going to make you pick your poison.
Well, that's why you really can't, you know, although McGuire hits home runs, I would rather righty-righty face McGuire right now. He's not swinging the bat well.
1-0. Outside 2-0.
You can also throw high fastballs by McGuire all day long. But in this case, Wenger did pitch around him, and as so often happened this second half, Langford makes you pay the price.
So he's 2 for 2, stands at second with his 73rd RBI of the year. The game tied at 1, and now the count moves to 3-0 with the youngster on deck.
Now Gant has the 3-0 green light. He's a lot like Sammy and a lot like McGuire in this situation. They're going to give him the 3-0 green light. You don't want to throw it middle in. If you miss away, fine. Don't give in to him.
3-0. And there's ball 4. Second walk of the game and inning for Wenger. Loading the bases for young Tatis. So Scott Service out to the mound to talk things over with Don Wengert. Tatis struck out swinging back in inning number 2. He becomes the 7th man to bat here in the Cardinal third. This one going to be a war of attrition. How long can each starter last?
Well, both starters have thrown a lot of pitches. This becomes the biggest out of the game for Don Wenger.
1-1 game. The Cardinals with a run on a couple of hits and walks. That's exactly what Wenger doesn't want to do with a youngster here. 1 ball, no strikes.
Tatis, like a lot of the youngsters, loves to swing the bat. He's walked once in 30 at-bats this year as a member of the Cardinals. You could almost try to walk him.
1-0. Right through there, and the count evens. A ball and a strike.
There is Big Mac from our left field camera, taking his lead in foul territory and almost obscuring the hitter with his immense size.
He even makes you look puny. 1-1. Swung on, hit high in the air toward right. Sammy is under it. He's there. He's got it. And the side is retired. The Cardinals get a run. They leave the bases loaded in the third. And after 3, Sammy making friends in a 1-1 game. St. Louis, another capacity crowd is on hand. The Cardinals well over 2 million in attendance already this year. And if they get past 2.8 million, Mark McGuire gets $1 for every ticket sold over that as an attendance clause bonus in his contract.
Well, he has a big, big influence on the folks that come to this yard. You can understand where he'd have an attendance clause. Very similar to the Ron Say attendance clause that he signed when he was with the Cubs, by the way.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, indeed.
Everybody who dressed like a penguin, he got a
but
buck?
he got a 50-cent per ticket attendance clause over a certain point, and I'm not sure exactly where it was, but the Cubs really eclipsed that by many folks, and I think Ron picked up about $500,000.
That sounds like the kind of deal you would sign.
I tried, but they suggested I pay them.
Wise decision. 2 balls and a strike to Johnson. He smacks again toward left, and Gant again puts him away. Out number 1. Sharon Panazzo wants to wish happy birthday greetings to her pal Mike Berger watching the game today. So many happy returns, Mike.
And bear in mind, Cub fans, that the 2nd annual Country Music Night at Wrigley Field, scheduled for Tuesday, September 1st, when the Cubs host the Cincinnati Reds at 7:05.
Scott Service rips a shot to right center. Diving try can't be made by Langford. The ball's going to roll to the track, and Scott Service stands at second with a double. And Langford looks like he's shaken up a bit.
He was shaded over to right center, and still that sinking line drive slicing away from him fell in front of him. This is a good effort by Langford, But he comes up short. The ball just barely tips off the glove and away from Jordan, and Scott Service is in at second base with a third Cub hit.
Another great effort by Ray Lankford. And he's upset with himself that he couldn't make the catch, but he covered a lot of real estate out there in center for the Cardinals. So Wengert, in a bunt situation, says the Cardinals, not showing signs of it, taking a strike. Tatis even with the bag at third, in on the grass actually, and Mark McGuire even with the bag at first. Game tied at 1. We're in the fourth. He slaps that ball foul and out of play.
And on September 1st, the evening will begin with a pregame performance by one of country music's hottest stars, Martina McBride. Her recent hits include The Happy Girl, which is climbing to #1 on the chart, and the Country Music Award nominated A Broken Wing.
That's what sent you to the broadcast booth. The 0-2 pitch. Bouncer back to the mound. Oliver looks service back to second, and there are 2 men out.
Well,
It's funny how baseball and country music just kind of just goes together.
Well,
does it
they
not?
do indeed. And so remember, it's Martina McBride live on the field Tuesday, September 1st. Looking forward to that night. I'm kind of a country guy myself.
Well, I
you know.
noticed that you've got your older boots on. Where are the deer skins?
I'm saving those for San Francisco, where it's a little cooler.
So here's Blauser. A base hit could mean a run. Service, though, does not run particularly well at second base.
And, of course, the best arm in the outfield in right in Jordan. And Gant will be charging in left on a base hit.
But he doesn't throw that well either, so the matchup might be about even. Blauser has not had a particularly successful series. He's 1 for 10. He's committed 3 errors.
Can turn all that around with a base hit here, assuming it scores Scott Service.
1 ball, no strikes. Inside, and the count evens at 1-1. I know there are a lot of theories about what has happened to Jeff's game, why the precipitous decline in his numbers over last season with Atlanta. Believe me, if he could find the answer, he'd love to figure it out, because it's not been the kind of year he had hoped for after a very good season last year for Atlanta.
Well, in truth, it was a career year for Jeff Blauser last year. When you take his numbers over the course of his career, you get a better indication of where he should be. Quite frankly, this hasn't been a good year by any stretch of the imagination, but you can't really compare it to last year and expect that kind of production.
Outside to him, 3 balls and a strike, with Morandini, one of the toughest Cub hitters, waiting on deck.
Jeff, a lifetime .268 hitter, hit .308 last year.
3 balls and a strike. Bouncing ball to short. Ordaz handles on a backhand stab. Wide throw at first, but Big Mac with that 6'6" frame able to maintain the bag. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left after 3.5. We're still tied 1-1. Lampkin, Oliver, and Ordaz here in the bottom half of the fourth in Stevens, St. Louis. Fathers and sons, mothers, daughters at the ballpark today, hoping to see Sammy and McGuire hit home runs here in the series finale in St. Louis.
And unlike the first 2 games, this one is shaping up to be a pitcher's duel. I think the hitters have to be exhausted.
All that run around the bases will wear you out.
Boy, yesterday was an extravaganza. The day before was put away in the first inning. And there is Dave Parker, the hitting coach, who has to be ecstatic by what his hitters have done in this series.
A ball and a strike. Well, we'll see the Cardinals a couple more times, if memory serves. We'll be here September 7th and 8th, and I think they come to our place one more time.
Yes, indeed they do.
2 balls and a strike.
They do come to our establishment. On the 18th and 19th, they kick off that homestand along with San Francisco and then Houston for 3.
Blowing in, 3 balls and a strike. Don't want to walk the leadoff man as you see the rest of the schedule in the month of August and early September. We'll know a lot more about this Cub team at the end of this road trip. This is a critical stretch of games.
And the ensuing homestand where the same teams come back.
A leadoff walk to Lampkin. Third of the game for Wenger.
And that sets up the Oliver bunt. But anytime you go and play St. Louis, San Francisco, and Houston, and then come back against those three teams, you know this is the defining moment in your season. The Cubs are right in the middle of that stretch, and they're bidding to go 1-2 after losing the first two games of this road trip.
And a trip to Iowa sandwiched in between as well for the Cubs. That right before the Houston series. So Oliver, who struck out swinging in the second, is the batter. The Cubs waiting for the bunt. And Wenger misses outside. Ball one. Service once time. He's going to walk out and probably say, look, he's going to give you the out.
Well, what you want to throw here is a high fastball. Oliver, quite obviously, coming over from the American League, not used to bunting. So you've got Grace and Hernandez charging hard. Wenger will have to come straight in. And it's going to be tough for Lampkin, who runs like a catcher, to make it at second base. So a very difficult bunting situation for Oliver. And on a high fastball, maybe you get the pop-up.
1 ball, no strikes. Lampkin at first draws a throw. Houston in front of the Phillies now 3-0 in the third inning. Rockies lead the Mets. That's good news. Dante Bichette with a double. Darryl Kyle pitching for the Rockies in that ball game. Strike called. 1-1. After this series, the Cubs will start to root for the Cardinals. The Mets will be in town for 3 here in St. Louis Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And by the way, it's Moises Alou who hit the 2-run homer for the Astro Ball Club.
He is having an all-world year. Left in the fire sale from Florida. And Jose looking at Rene Latchman to see what signs he's giving.
Bunt.
If it's not the bunt, there's going to be a big surprise in that infield.
A ball and a strike. That fouled away, I would suppose. Yes, indeed. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Talking with Red Schoendienst, the Hall of Fame former manager of the Cardinals. He said about Alou, he's the guy that made that ball club offensively. They were already really good, but Alou, he said, icing on the cake with the kind of year he's having.
And don't forget a man that nobody talks about when they talk about that team, and that's Carl Everett, who was hitting about .325 when he went down, clearing the way for Richard Hidalgo, who was the man who got hit last night with the bases loaded and won the ball game.
He took one for the team. You've got to respect that. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Oliver. And he foul tips that ball away and is struck out. So 5 strikeouts for Wenger now. Oliver can't get the bunt down.
Lack of execution usually hurts you. Now let's see if they can get that same ground ball from our dads that they got in the third inning and turn it into 2. Because when you get to the top, things get a little more dangerous for these Cardinals.
Do they ever? They've got a lot of thunder in the top of the order, which is very different for this Cardinal organization. You think about the early 80s when they had Coleman and McGee and Herb, and then Jack Clark in the middle of that lineup, or Pedro Guerrero. Even had Bob Horner at one time.
They set the all-time record for home runs this year. 145 of them. So this has never been known as a home run hitting team, and this used to be a much more difficult park to hit home runs. It's about 14 feet closer in the alleys right now than it's ever been before. That makes a huge difference.
So here's Ordaz. He takes high, ball 1.
Dave Parker trying to get Luis Ordaz to hit down on the ball. Don't hit so many fly balls. He's a little man, doesn't have a whole lot of power. He's convinced him that if you start to hit down on the ball, then you'll hit line drives and ground balls, which is what you have to do. But he has flied out a few too many times for Parker's liking.
1 ball, no strikes. There's a fly ball hit to right, but it's going to twist out of play. Another facet of this Cardinal organization, always have had great shortstops. Way back in the days when my granddad was doing the games here in St. Louis, and then when I was a youngster, Gary Templeton, of course, Ozzie Smith.
Marty Marion was one of your grandfather's favorites, and there is the Wizard of Oz. And I talked with him before the ball game the other night. I asked him, what took you from a great fielding shortstop who couldn't hit to a great fielding shortstop who was really a force offensively? He told me, well, everybody says I gained 15 pounds and it was the weight room and the strength. He goes, that's only part of it. He said, but I work tirelessly to make myself a better hitter, and when it comes down to it, it's what's between your shoulders. You get to know what the pitchers are trying to do to you.
That ball rifled toward left center field. Hill on the run. He's got it for out number 2.
And there's an example of Ordaz. Although he hit the ball hard, here's a little man with huge gaps here in St. Louis, and he's not going to get much mileage out of that. So you hit the ball hard, you like to say way to go, but it turns into a harmless flyout as Ordaz with an uppercut swing, which is kind of death for a little man, and he flies out.
That swing reminded me of Brett Boone of Cincinnati. Big recoil at the end of the contact. So Ordaz is out number 2. Lampkin stays at first, and now Pat Kelly, the batter, he's 0 for 2. But you're right about Ozzie Smith, man. He was not a very good hitter, great defensive player, even when he was with San Diego, but he made himself a 280, 290, 300 hitter here in St. Louis.
He said he used to talk to pitchers and try to get a feeling for what they were going to do with hitters in every situation. Then he was very observant on the bench. And he feels that that's almost a lost art. Watching what the opposing pitcher does to a hitter very similar to your type of hitter, seeing how he gets him out in tough situations, seeing how he works him. When does he throw his breaking ball? When will he throw his changeup? And if you can pick up a pattern, then it helps you. And Ozzie Smith became a terrific hitter late in his career.
A ball and a strike. That's some advice that Mickey Morandini is kind of taking now. I was talking with him in the locker room before the game, and I looked up in his locker, and he had 2 big spiral notebooks. I said, what's that for? He said he charts every pitcher in the National League that he faces. He reviews the tapes immediately after the ball game and jots down his notes to see how guys pitch him in certain situations, and he said that's a big reason why he's having the career offensive year he's having this season. He said it really helps him.
Good hitting doesn't come by accident. It's hard work, it's preparation, and in the end, it's a thought process. And Mickey now is at the point of his career where he's still physically strong enough, and maybe stronger than he's been before, but all that experience has come together and knowledge of what the pitchers have tried to do because he's been a career National Leaguer, and he's seen these guys a lot.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Wengert sets and fires. Fouled back to the screen.
I'd have to think with Kelly here, you've thrown the ball away so many times that he's had to protect out there. I'd go with a slider a little bit further away, and maybe you can get him swinging at something off the plate. He was called out on a good slider in the 3rd, so he knows that Hallion is giving him the outside corner.
2-2. Fastball inside corner, froze him, and Wengert has struck out 6 men through 4. He's pitching a gem. Game tied at 1 as we head to the 5th. 1-1 game as we head to the 5th here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. 2, 3, and 4 due up in the Cubs order here in the 5th. And female Cub fans, if you need a new outfit for your Barbie, well, here's your chance. This Sunday, August 23rd, is Mattel Cubs Barbie Fashion Avenue Day at Wrigley Field. The first 10,000 females attending the Cubs-Astros game receive this cool Cubs outfit for their Barbie. Compliments of Target and August Battaglia. For tickets, stop by the Wrigley Field box office or call 312-831-CUBS. Morandini swings and fouls the first pitch away. It's 0-1. John Wengert, 6 strikeouts through 4. But a run or 2 here would be nice for the 5th. Features Jordan McGuire and Langford against him in the St. Louis 5th.
And Wengert doing exactly what Jim Riggleman needed, giving him innings, and quality innings at that. This game identical, 1-3-1 for each team. A run, 3 hits, and an error apiece.
But this game much more significant to the Cubs than it is to the Cardinals. Morandini bounces to second. Kelly will retire him 1 away. The Cubs with a half-game lead in the wild card race. Peeking at that scoreboard, seeing the Mets score twice against Darryl Kyle in the 2nd and lead Colorado 2-1.
The half-game lead is a little bit deceiving in that the Cubs are 1 back in the loss column. You can't get losses back. The Mets have some doubleheaders to play. That will certainly test their pitching staff. But the Cubs have got to pick it up. And they're going to have to do it on the road.
Well, that is where the bulk of our remaining games will be played. 3 in San Francisco, 3 in Houston coming up. As Grace bats, bases empty, 1 out, and a late swing, strike 1. Grace grounded to short in the first, to second in the third. And is 3 for 10 in the series and carries a modest 4-game hit streak into today's game. And when Grace swings and misses like that, you know the pitcher he is facing is giving him fits. 0-2 to Grace. Our next Cub telecast on WGN will be Tuesday, 2:30 Central Time. Kerry Wood, Oral Hershiser will lock up. Oral started the season rather slowly, but remember that doubleheader against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. I think Hershiser pitched a gem in one of those ball games, and that really got his season going for San Francisco.
San Francisco activated Julian Taveras. That's big for them because with their starters, most of them only going through 5 and 6, you're going to need a good, strong 10.
How about Grace working the count full after falling behind 0-2?
Cubs are hoping, of course, that Atlanta continues to shellac the Giants. They have just crushed them 2 straight heading into today's game.
Yeah, they had 5 home runs and 20 hits in the game yesterday, and Mark Grace, after falling behind 0-2, coaxes the 1-out walk. Great at bat for Grace. And that's the 4th Oliver free pass in the game, and that sets it up for Sammy once again. Sammy, an infield hit back in the 3rd, was robbed of extra bases by a diving stop by Tatis. He's also scored the lone Cub run. He's been on base twice. Is 3 for 9 now in the series. Pop foul and out of play. Who's cleaning up in baseball? Total bases leaders in the National League. It's brought to you by Hoover.
Sammy, Vinny, Greg Vaughn coming into today, leading the way, and that's who's cleaning up for Hoover. And there are 2 of the men at the top of the list, as you would expect.
No balls and a strike. Sosa has walked once. He scored once. He has singled and has been stranded at 3rd in today's ball game. One. Outside, 2 balls and a strike. I know it's been a popular topic the last year and a half or so about the supposed demise of baseball, but when you look and see what McGuire, what Sosa, what Vaughn, what Griffey, what Albert Bell have all been doing offensively this year, you've got to look back and say, Steve, that this is a golden era of offense in the history of Major League Baseball.
Except when Greg Maddux goes to the mound, then it becomes the golden age of pitchers. But you're right, there are some premier sluggers. We've already seen the transition of the position of shortstop gone from a defensive position to an offensive position.
The 2-2. Upstairs, full count, 3-2.
And there is a difference with Sammy. He's not swinging at that pitch high and out of the zone too often, so he works himself into a pretty good count here.
Will Grace be going here?
It's a gamble. Sammy does strike out quite a bit, and Gracie will not have the opportunity to get much of a lead.
Not going. 3-2 pitch fouled away at home plate. What a snag by the attendant down there by the bat boy. One-handed grab to pick off the bouncing foul ball. There he is. Robbed a fan of a souvenir.
Well, you got to figure Sammy's going to get a fastball here, and if he gets it out over the plate, he should put a charge into it.
The 3-2. Here it is. Off speed. He just did get a piece of that ball.
That one hung up there, and Sammy just swung under it.
Many more home runs in the 90s than in the 80s, 70s, or 60s. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Ball 4, he walked him. 2 on, 1 out. And I know there are a lot of theories as to why that's the case. Certainly the sluggers, the hitters today are better conditioned. They're better athletes than, say, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. The mound is lower. The strike zone is certainly different.
Some smaller ballparks with some of the newer parks, Coors Field. Baltimore, very easy to hit home runs in.
Even this ballpark, as you mentioned, has gotten cozier here in St. Louis. Now Glen Allen Hill bats with 2 on, 1 out in a tie game, and Oliver missing high. He's struggling with his control. That's been the scouting report on him. He's walked 5 men already in the game.
Darren Oliver has terrific stuff. But when you beat him because he helps you beat himself with a lot of walks. And right now he's walking the tightrope. He got away with 3 walks in that second inning because he didn't give up any hits. And the Cubs are hoping to cash in here in this 1-1 game.
1-0 is your count. The runners lead at first and second, the 1-0. Roller foul past third. Tom Gamboa olated, couldn't make the play, and the count now 1-1. Talk about, Steve, the adjustment a young pitcher like Oliver has to make now, coming over from the American to the National League in midseason. Because there is a big difference.
Well, certainly he doesn't know the hitters particularly well, but that's where he trusts Dave Duncan and his catchers. And they go over the hitters before the game. And the umpiring is similar.
Again, foul past third, 1-2.
Although he's probably not going to get as many high strikes here, and he is normally a high ball pitcher. He's going to get a little more on the outside corner. There's a look at Dave Duncan, who is widely acclaimed as one of the better pitching coaches around, despite the fact that he was a catcher during his playing days. But he's very scientific. And he tries to get into each and every one of his pitchers' heads and figure out the best way for them to do it.
1-2. In the dirt, good stop by Lampkin, 2-2.
There's a lot of pitching coaches who will try to mold their pitchers in the image of the type of pitcher that they were in their careers. For Dave Duncan, that's not a possibility because he was a catcher. But this has been a very disappointing year for him. He hasn't had a lot of horses in that starting rotation.
Well, the guy they sorely missed at the start of the year was Andy Bennis. He was a workhorse for them here in St. Louis. The 2-2. Rifled foul out of play. Bennis had a contract that was agreed to after the deadline for having such things happen. And he was a free agent in Arizona, was able to sign it.
And the injury to Alan Bennis was devastating.
Morris went down, Osborne.
Right, so they lost just about everyone. Kent Bottenfield has done a nice job for them. Good opportunity for Glen Allen Hill once again. A very good matchup for him. He had an infield hit last time in the third.
It was an arguable call that went against the Cardinals, but Hill will take the hit.
And he has one of the advantages of having seen Oliver a few times in the past. Very few Cubs can say that.
2 balls, 2 strikes. 2 are on, 1 is out. And now Lampkin and Oliver can't get together on the signs. I think in the National League, 1 means fastball, just like the American League.
Well,
2 means curveball.
I think Oliver was probably going into what an old teammate of mine named Don Stanhouse used to call was his sleeper. He used to just hold the ball on the mound because he knew that nothing bad could happen as long as you held it. When you let it go that all the trouble starts.
I don't want to throw it. The 2-2. In the dirt. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Phillies are threatening in the 4th in Houston. 3-1 ball game. 2 outs, 1st and 3rd. Bobby Estrella facing Shane Reynolds.
And with Jose on deck, do you start the runner?
3-2. Swung a line like a rocket into the seats down the left field line.
Bullpen up and going for the Cardinals. John Frascatore, who has been ever present. And there's a look at Frascatore, who, along with just about everybody else, pitched in the game yesterday. Everybody but Arnie Harris, because he wasn't here.
Well, when the moon's in the sky like a big pizza pie, that's Frascatore. 3-2. I know. I thought so, too. I just couldn't resist. The payoff pitch, here it comes. Line looping towards short and into center field for a hit. Everybody will be safe. And some good base running there by the Cubs. Had that ball been caught, either Grace or Sosa could have been doubled off. Instead, they went halfway and scrambled in before the Cardinals could make a play. So a looping single into center field by Glenn Allen Hill.
Well, if Ordaz was a little taller, he might have made that play, but he was playing him too low.
They needed Randy Johnson at shortstop to make that play.
Well, now Jose has an opportunity to break things open here, largely because of the 2 walks, the bloop hit, and the Cubs in business with only 1 out.
Game tied at 1 in the 5th. Ball 1 high. I'm not a pitching coach, but it looks to me like he's not finishing off his pitches, not bending his back much at all.
Well,
now.
Being a high ball pitcher, what he does, Chip, is he throws a lot of arm and doesn't have a whole lot of leg drive. That's always been his style.
1-0 to Jose Hernandez. A hit means a couple of runs. Bouncing ball to short. Could be 2. Out at second. 1 relay to first in time. Double play ends the threat in the 5th. Pitcher's best friend for Oliver, who has not had good control, but he escapes the 5th with no damage done. Now has the momentum shifted to the Cardinals. Cubs had the bases loaded, 1 out, hit into a double play. It's still 1-1, and now the 2-3-4 hole due up for the Cardinals here in the 5th.
Good turn of the double play by Kelly at second base.
A rocket shot to second, and Morandini spears, and Jordan's retired on 1 pitch here in the 5th.
And now the fans will get their share of entertainment watching Mark McGwire with nobody on base. And a big pitch by Darren Oliver. He dug himself into a hole. He got the ground ball when he had to. And then they turned the double play as the Cubs, unfortunately so far, have left 8 men on base through 5. Cardinals haven't been much better. They've left 6.
And here's Mark McGwire. He is struck out and he is walked. Base is empty, 1 down. Well, my cousin Shannon Carey is here in the booth. She lives here in St. Louis. She was oh so happy to be greeted so warmly by all those fans in center field at Wrigley Field on Harry Carey Day. 2 balls, no strikes. Shannon wearing a Cardinal jersey. I can't believe it. It's good to see you, sweetheart. How are you? Anytime. It's great to see you.
I stand at a green Cardinal jersey, something that I have not seen before.
What's the new one?
Well,
Are you mad?
save it.
I'll trade it in right now. I'll trade it in.
3 balls, no strikes. Who's your favorite Cub? No, you don't need to tell me. I know. Mark Grace, big Mark Grace fan here in St. Louis.
Oh, there's a surprise.
3-0. There's ball 4. McGwire walks for the 2nd time in this ball game.
And gets a round of boos directed at Don Wengert, who decided he didn't want Mark McGwire to untie it. He would just as soon take his chance with Langford and Gant with only 1 out.
But the problem, you've got to deal with Langford. He's 2 out of 2, a single, a double, an RBI, and Stoney, he's been swinging a terrific bat for the Cardinals since the break.
This has been the man that's led the way to the Cardinal resurgence. They've won 4 in a row. Looking for their 5th here today in what's turned into a pretty good pitcher's duel.
1-1 game. Swing and a miss. It's 0-1. Langford, a chance to advance McGwire or send him home. It's a 1-1 game. Big Mac setting a mean pick for Mark Grace over at first. It's 1-1. That's like looking around the Hancock building.
I would think it'd be very difficult for Mark to see around Big Mac. So he's trying to get an angle. He's going around Luke Longley. Except maybe with a little more mobility.
A ball and a strike. Luke Steve said that. I didn't. The pitch is outside. 2-1. They go to the bottom of the 4th in Houston. Phillies settled for 1. It's now 3-1 in favor of the Astros.
Dave Parker told me that Langford was at his best when he hit the ball to left and left center field. Now he can pull it, but his natural stroke is the opposite way.
It's at a mile high into center field. Lance Johnson puts it away. 2 down. So McGwire will trot back to first. And Ron Gant will be the batter. He reached on a Jeff Blauser error in the 2nd. walked in the third and was stranded. Cardinals have left 6 men through their last 3 innings plus.
I would be careful with the first pitch to Gant. He does like to pull the ball. In fact, with a wide open stance, he's almost a dead pull hitter. And he's looking for something middle in, so stay away, and maybe you can get that ground ball to the left side. He'll do that quite a bit.
Outside, ball 1. Boy, that thing just butterflied in for a strike. It's 1-1.
Ron Gant is much better with runners on base.
As you can plainly see, the 1 ball, 1 strike is over for strike 2 call. It's 1-2. A ball and 2 strikes. Downstairs, it's 2-2.
You have to throw that slider away from Gant here. Here's a man who strikes out quite a bit. One of the ways he'll strike out is fastballs up over his head. I don't know if you want to go to 3-2, but a good slider low and away might do the trick here.
2 balls, 2 strikes. The pitch swung on and hammered deep toward left, but he pulled it well foul and out of play. That would have reached Big Mac land.
That's not where you wanted to throw him. That was a fastball down and on the inner portion. That's the one pitch Gant is looking for. Watch it here. You see where it's located. It's down, inside, and he just smoked it. Now keep the ball away with a slider, and you should be out of the inning.
2-2, 2 outs. Bouncing ball hit right to Morandini. He'll flip to Blauser at second, and the side is retired. No runs, hits, errors. Another Cardinal left. We're through 5, and we're still tied 1-1. We go to the 6th inning. It's 1-1 here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Hi again, everybody. Chip Terry along with Steve Stone. A great pitchers duel. Both pitchers giving their managers exactly what they were hoping for today.
And both pitchers just making huge pitches when they have to. They've both been in trouble, but they both made the big pitches. And right now, not much to choose from between these two teams.
It's like a tennis match. A lot of lobs. A lot of men left on base.
There is that, and hopefully both managers can stay out of the bullpen today. Although the Cubs would like to see Oliver with a few more walks. Maybe they can put something across.
That would be nice. Lance Johnson won't walk to lead off the 6th inning. He's going to ground out to second, and there's out number 1.
I would think Oliver would be a very difficult assignment for a left-hand hitter. He really uses his body to shield the ball coming in. I don't think the hitters see the ball real well. I think that's why Mark Grace was fairly relieved to draw based on balls last time up after falling behind 1-2. But Oliver is tough on the lefty.
Scott Service hits, bases empty, 1 out in the 6th. Scott bounced into a force play his first time up, then doubled and was stranded in the 4th. The Cardinals have left 7 men on base. The Cubs have left 8 men on. We're in the 6th inning of play. Tied 1-1 here in St. Louis. Before Service sees another pitch, let's pause quickly for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN, Chicago.
With Steve Stone, Chip Terry from the ballpark in St. Louis. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The news not good in Houston. A triple by Derek Bell has scored 2 more Astro runs. They now lead the Phillies 5-1 down at the Dome in Houston. Boy, those Astros, they're hitting everything in sight right now.
They're second in the league behind Colorado.
That shot hit toward left. Gant drifts back, puts it away. Good play. 2 down.
Ron Gant is not known for his defense, but he makes a good play here. They were shading Service around toward right center, and that's where he doubled in the 4th inning. This time he pulls a high fastball, and Gant gets a good break on it, and he hauls it down. The Astros, although second in batting average, they lead the National League in the most important category, and that is runs scored.
And I'll bet if you asked 10 casual fans of baseball which team in the National League would be the run-scoring leader, I would venture maybe 2 would say the Houston team,
They might say Atlanta.
Bouncing ball up the middle from Wengert, and Kelly can't make the play. So Wengert's aboard with 2 outs here in the 6th.
Well, that wasn't a particularly good effort by Pat Kelly. That time he anticipated the hop and he came up with the glove. And you're taught as an infielder to keep the glove down. You can always come up with the hop. Watch this. As he comes up, he anticipates it being up a little higher than it is, and he doesn't make the play. And that is an error and should have been. That ball should have been fielded.
So the second Cardinal error of the game, and third on the day for both ball clubs. And that brings Jeff Blauser into the batter's box, 0 for 3. Jeff has bounced to the mound, fly to center, and grounded out to the shortstop. They won't bother to hold Wengert on in a tie game with 2 outs. And outside, 1 ball, no strike. Want to send along get well greetings to Warren Adams, watching the game in Springfield, Illinois. Your family down in New Orleans passes along those greetings. Hope you're feeling better today as the Cubs and Cardinals battle in Game 3. Tatis in fair ground. Fields flips to first in time, and the Cubs are out of luck in the 6th. Card playback today. We turn the clocks back to 8/8/88. 10 years ago yesterday, and turn the lights on at the friendly confines. Jack Brickhouse introduced 91-year-old Cub fan Harry Grossman, and Harry flipped the switch, forever lighting up the night on the north side of Chicago. That's today's Discover Card playback. No need for lights here in St. Louis at the moment, as Fernando Tatis leads things off in the 6th. Wengert took something off, and Tatis almost corkscrewed himself into the ground. 0-1. Young man 0 for 2 with the bat, but he's made a couple of good plays defensively. And Don Wengert continues to pitch a super ball game here in the 6th inning.
Mets have taken a 4-1 lead over Colorado. That's Hideo Nomo against Darryl Kyle. That game moves to the bottom of the 3rd, so it's still very early in Denver.
That ball hit high in the air into center field. Lance Johnson puts it away. 1 down here in the 6th for St. Louis. I want to send along greetings to my uncle Chris Carey, watching the game today here in St. Louis. If you ever wondered what my uncle looks like, just look for the guy with the Hawaiian shirt on.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised he's not at the game today.
Oh, he's still recovering from Friday night, I think.
Usually a fixture here at the ballpark.
But we're glad he sent my cousin, Shannon, to the game instead. Everybody'd rather look at her anyway. Pretty girl. Here's Lampkin. He takes ball 1. Lampkin flipped to center and walked in today's ball game. Popped up. Will it stay in play for Jose at third? Nope, it will not. Count evens. A ball and a strike. Again, your
couple of rows back.
Your pregame guest today, Andy McPhail, the president of the Cubs. Ed Lynch, the general manager of the team, responsible for the trades and activities in that realm of the operation of the Cubs baseball ball club. Jeff Juden got traded after the deadline the other day. Do you foresee the Cubs making another move?
Andy McPhail said that they will be busy pursuing waiver deals.
That ball hit hard and fouled out of play.
And you'd have to believe that there will be a few guys available. Probably not as attractive a group as there would have been before the trading deadline, but Randy Myers, after the trading deadline, went to San Diego. And that certainly helps them. Number one, you keep them away from Atlanta. And number two, they had no left-handers in their bullpen.
Bouncing ball towards short. Big Sunday hop for Blauser. Lampkin hustling down the line. Good speed for a catcher, but he is retired for round number 2. Well, there might be some confusion, Steve, by the average fan at home. Can you explain why there's the need for a trading deadline if you can make deals after that supposed deadline to move players?
Well, the difference is that before the trading deadline, you don't have to allow other teams to claim your players. You can trade anybody anywhere, interleague or anywhere you want to. After the trading deadline, and again, that's an arbitrary deadline imposed by the owners themselves, you have to clear waivers, and it makes trading that much more difficult. So John Mabry comes on a pinch hit, and he had a pinch double yesterday. So the day is done for Oliver, who gives Tony La Russa a good, strong 6, and I assume we're going to see Frascatore. And that's what he looks like.
One ball, one strike to Mabry. They keep trying to find a place for this guy to play. Not going to play first base with Mark McGwire here. Probably isn't going to be their third baseman with Tatis now coming from Texas. And their outfield awfully crowded, and they've got J.D. Drew in the pipeline. So where will Mabry fit in here in St. Louis, or will he fit in somewhere else?
Well, with the need of this ball club starting pitchers and perhaps some guys in the middle in the pen, you would think that Mabry might be good trade bait. But again, you have to wonder what they're going to do with Jordan. That is the big X factor on this team.
1-2 popped up and popped out of play.
And Mabry does have a lot of flexibility. He can play third. He can play first. He's got a great arm, so he can play anywhere in the outfield.
Well, you remember early in the season when the Cardinals were battling the Cubs, the day Mark Grace ran through the stop sign and McGwire cut the ball off. It was Mabry in left who made that rocket throw to the cutoff man. In left field for St. Louis. Upstairs, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Big Mac.
Mac, who keeps saying he's getting tired, that it's the heat and the humidity here in St. Louis, unlike temperatures in Oakland. And he certainly is right about that.
That ball hit high in the air, deep toward right. Sammy at the track, at the wall. It's into the seats, and the Cardinals have the lead. A pinch hit home run puts St. Louis in front 2-1.
That's the 6th pinch hit home run of the year for the St. Louis Cardinals. And Mabry has hit his 2nd pinch homer, his 4th run batted in as a pinch hitter on his 5th hit. And the Cardinals have the lead. Watch it again. A good at bat for Mabry as he battles Wengert, stayed alive, and got one out over the plate and put a charge into it.
So Mabry 5 for 9 against the Cubs this year. 2 of those 5 hits home runs. And it's now a 2-1 St. Louis game in the 6th inning. And now Luis Ordaz, the batter, he's 0 for 2. Again, the interesting twist as Matt Karchner starts to warm. Mabry was pinch hitting in the number 8 spot occupied by the pitcher. That ball popped back toward us and into the seats. And it's 1-1. A lot of folks scoffed at La Russa flipping his order that way by moving the pitcher up into the 8th spot. But he believes that it gives McGwire extra RBI chances and turns the lineup over more quickly for him.
If your number 9 hitter is a good hitter, that would work out very well. But Ordaz, so far, hitting in the 140s, you're better off with some good hitting pitchers most of the time.
Bouncing ball up the middle. Blauser to his left, spears it, throws wide of the bag.
Boy, that was way off the target. They're going to give him a hit, but that's a play that should have been made.
Man, oh man, what's happening to Jeff Blauser's
Watch
glove?
it again. Now, he's got the play, but this throw nowhere near the bag. And as you can see in your picture, Ordaz is not near the bag himself. So now Jim Riggleman coming out to talk with Don Wengert. Try to settle him down, perhaps, give Karchner a chance to get loose.
Well, John ought to be out of the inning. But after the Mabry home run, the gift scoring on the infield hit to Ordaz now brings Pat Kelly to the plate. He's 0 for 3. Cubs trying to avoid the sweep here in St. Louis.
The one thing that you have going for you if you're the Cubs in this situation, this Cardinal bullpen has had all kinds of problems holding leads.
More blown saves than any team in baseball. They are this year's Seattle Mariners.
They don't have that legitimate closer, although Brantley keeps throwing better and better, but he's still not the Brantley of old quite yet.
Kelly looks outside, ball one.
We've been telling you that he likes to bunt, but with Mark Grace having to hold close with Ordaz at first, he's going to be in a little more quickly on a bunt.
One ball, no strikes. Good fastball. He's had a good one today.
I think Wengert has thrown a whale of a ball game. And I think that Jim Riggleman and the Cubs have to be very happy with this performance. He was not particularly sharp last time out. He's facing a red-hot ball club in their park, and he's shut them down.
On just 2 runs on 5 hits. 1 ball, 1 strike. Cardinals leading 2-1. Outside, 2-1. Mets lead Colorado 4-1 after 3. Phillies getting hammered in Houston 8-1 in the 5th. Montreal over Arizona 8-2. That a final now. Shane Bennett beat Bob Wolcott, man that beat us out in Arizona. And Milwaukee leading 4-3 in Cincinnati. That game in the 9th after a long rain delay. Foul tipped off Scott's service to even the count 2-2. 2-4. Make it 2-5-2 for St. Louis. 1-4-1 for the Cubs.
And the Cubs do have the heart of the order coming up in the 7th. And they're going to face the right-handed Frascatore. It'll be Morandini, Grace, and Sosa. And if anybody gets on, most likely Henry Rodriguez for Glen Allen Hill.
3 balls, 2 strikes.
Well, that's what you didn't want to do, because now you give Ordaz, who doesn't have great speed, a running start with 2 outs. And that means where he would be stopped at third on a double, now he's got a chance to score. So when you go to 3-2, you give the base runner an extra couple of steps. I'm not sure why Mark Grace isn't in back of him. Get a better angle on a ball shot to that side.
3 balls, 2 strikes. You know, coming to think about that play by Blauser, he's been bothered by a sore groin muscle. As he came across the left side of the infield, all his momentum on that sore left leg, I wonder if that could have affected that throw for him. Have to ask him about that after the game. 3-2. Swung and hit hard into the seats.
Think he was looking fastball to pull?
Yes.
He almost took that one over the Cub dugout, so that was pulled about as much as you can. If Don has one good slider left, he can throw it away from Kelly and get it. He's been caught looking twice, once on the slider, once on the inside fastball. You probably want to stay away from inside here.
3 balls, 2 strikes. Ordaz the lead from first. There he goes. The pitch outside, ball 4. 2 on, 2 out.
Now, if you're Jim Riggleman, you got to go to Karshner. He's fresh and ready to go, and you got a dangerous hitter up.
5 walks for Wengert. He struck out 6. He gave up 1 home run. 5 hits, 2 runs so far in 5 innings and 2/3. So Karchner will come on. He'll face Brian Jordan. It's 2-1 St. Louis here at Busch Stadium.
Don Wengert, who has to be a little disappointed, but he's got nothing to be ashamed of. He threw the ball very well against a red-hot team, and now he turns it over to Matt Karshner, who inherits base runners at first and second, and a very tough hitter up in Brian Jordan. So the day is done for Don Wengert. He goes 5 2/3 innings, give up 5 hits, walks 5, fans 6, responsible for the 2 men on, and he leaves trailing by 1 lone run. And so Matt Karshner in a very difficult assignment, because Jordan, a notorious first ball hitter, you got to be careful there. And the fans here in St. Louis would love to get the brooms out, and the Cubs trying to avoid that. So for the 6th time, Karshner comes on, the ERA 10-13, 6 hits in 2 2/3 innings.
As far as availability in the Cubs bullpen, I would imagine Beck would be out. Stevens would probably be out. Mulholland went an inning and 2/3 yesterday. Karchner only a third. Heredia a third. Terry Adams went 1 1/3. So the arms down there a little thin today. So you'd figure Karchner and Heredia would be the freshest men down there. Ball one high to Jordan.
Outfield very deep. They play Jordan straight away. He's got real good power and great speed.
1 ball, no strikes. 2 on, 2 out. 2-1 Cardinal game. Strike outside edge.
The resolution of this at-bat could very well tell the tale of this game. You got McGuire and Langford coming up, but there are 2 outs in the inning.
Upstairs, Big Mac is waiting on deck. You walk this guy, and there's no place to put McGuire. It's 2-1. The count, 2-1. Swung on, hit a mile high in the air. That's going to reach the seats, however. And the count moves to 2-2.
You'd love to make it happen right here on 2-2. You go to 3-2, it takes the force out of the equation and starts the runners moving.
This is the pitch Wenge wants it to happen, or Karchner wants it to happen on. Wenger 2. 2-2. 2 on, 2 out. Bouncing ball to short. Blauser's got it, flips low and wide at second, but he held the bag, and the inning is over. Man, oh man, Morandini saved disaster there.
Watch it again, and Jeff Blauser almost threw this one into right field, but for the acrobatics of Mickey Morandini, the Cubs and Karchner get out of the inning.
He takes over for Darren Oliver. He has a microscopic ERA against the Cubs, and Mickey Morandini saved disaster a moment ago.
Looks like an easy play. Jeff puts a little adventure in it, but yes, indeed, Mickey Morandini did keep the foot on the bag. As Frascatore comes in at 1-3, on for the 53rd time. He's been a busy man, as have all the Cardinal relievers. 4.19 ERA, and he's got a 1-run lead. Darren Oliver, the pitcher of record, as is Don Wengert, but the Cubs go through the middle of the order. And I know for a fact Mickey Morandini is very happy to see Darren Oliver out of this game.
For he went 0 for 3 against the young Cardinal left-hander. Now Frascatore takes over. Lifetime against the Cubs, no record, but an earned run average of 0.56 in 10 games, 16 innings, 1 run, 11 strikeouts.
But this is that 17th time.
All-important 17th
which
time.
usually bodes ill for a Cardinal reliever.
There's the strike. It's 0-1.
Frascatore has a pretty good slider. 6'1", 210 out of Queens, New York. Last year, very good for the Cardinals.
Swing and a miss. 0-2.
Frascatore was 5-2, a fine ERA of 2.48 in 59 games, and he's going to fly by that this year.
Swung on, hit high in the air toward right, but playable for Jordan at the edge of the track. 1 away here in the 7th. Morandini is 0 for 4. And his 5-game hit streak is in jeopardy as Jim Riggleman looks on. Tony La Russa on the right.
One manager trying to get into the postseason play, and the other aiming for respectability in what has been a most disappointing Cardinal season.
143,773. 143,773.
Cardinals drew 143,773 for the 3-game series. Not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all. Ground ball to first. McGuire knocked it down. Will flip to Frascatore. Good play. 2 outs. And this is how the Cubs want to see Mark McGwire hit. Here's how the Cardinals like to see Sosa bat. Bases empty, 2 outs. Sammy 1 for 1 with 2 walks. He scored the lone Cub run.
Well, Sammy did it twice yesterday. A 2-run bomb in the 9th to send it into extra innings, and then what looked like the winning hit in the 12th, only to see Eli Marrero, who's not playing today, tie it up in their half of the 12th. Sammy did everything he could, but win the ball game.
Ball 1 to Sosa, who's 3 for 9 in the series. Sammy with 44 homers, 114 batted in. Mark McGwire with 46 homers and 103 driven in. A ball and a strike. Blue skies appearing overhead. Hopefully that's a sign of good things for the Cubs here in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. Need a run to tie it. A lot of Cub fans made the trek to St. Louis. 2 balls, 1 strike. 3-1.
Well, now with Glenn Allen Hill in the on-deck circle, you wonder if it'll be Hill or Rodriguez or maybe Brown to face Frascatore. I couldn't believe Glenn Allen Hill would face him.
3-1. Ball 4. Sosa walks for the 3rd time in the game. So Hill will be lifted here, and it will be Henry Rodriguez.
Lampkin now going out to talk with Frascatore, and that's one of the things when you have a 1-run lead late. The last thing you want to do is walk Sammy for the simple reason if he hits a home run, he can only tie it up. Now, if Henry hits one, the Cubs go ahead. And 2 of the premier sluggers in the game once again getting reunited. Sammy's been on base all 4 times. He's had a great deal of opportunity to talk with Big Mac. Probably asking him how you got that big.
So Henry bats with 2 outs.
Sammy probably said, how are we going to break that record if they keep walking us?
Makes it tough. Max walked twice, Sammy thrice. And Henry looks for his first hit in the series. He's 0 for 8. But does have 27 home runs and has driven home 73. Outside, ball 1. Jose Hernandez waiting on deck. We're in the 7th inning. Cardinals 2, Cubs 1. St. Louis trying to sweep us. The Cubs trying to win their 65th of the year. Swung on, line into center field. That'll drop for a hit. They played him very deeply. Sosa stops at second, a pinch hit single. 2 on, 2 outs for Jose Hernandez.
This one out away from Henry, and he gets it off the end of the bat, hits it into center field. And so not only the tying, but the go-ahead run on base. And it's going to be Tyler Houston. So with no left-handers up in the pen, Tyler Houston will be facing Frascatore, and here comes Dave Duncan. He wants to give him the scouting report on Houston, who, if you remember, hit a 2-run pinch homer yesterday.
2-1 ball game. So Houston hits for Hernandez, who went 0 for 2 with a walk.
We told you about the problems that this Cardinal bullpen have had holding leads. That's been one of the reasons why they are well down in the Central.
More blown saves than anybody. 26, if memory serves, on the 98 campaign. Another here would be nice, as Houston digs in and takes a bullet for strike 1. 2 on, 2 out. Cubs have left 9 men on base. run on 5 hits for Cubby fans. The pitch bends around the plate. 1-1. Houston pouring it on against Philly. 9-1 after 5. Colorado's drawn close. It's 4-3 in the bottom of the 4th inning, and they're still batting with nobody out against Nomo. Swing and a miss. The ball can't be fouled by Lampkin. The runners advance 90 feet. There's a break. A base hit could mean 2 runs now.
Well, they're giving a wild pitch to Frascatore that looked like a pass ball. I thought that ball stayed in the air. We'll have to take a look at it again. Let's see if it's in the dirt. This is a pass ball, folks.
Yeah, hit him right in the mid.
Maybe the official scorer would like to rethink that position. And he does.
But it is still a strike, and the count now 1-2.
But more importantly, now a base hit gets you 2 and gets you the lead.
But it's not to be. Swing and a miss. Frascatore strikes out Houston, and the Cubs leave runners 10 and 11 on base. As we head to the 7th inning stretch, the Cardinals lead it by a run. Henry Rodriguez stays in the game in left field for the Cubs. Tyler Houston is at 3rd base. And in the 7th, Mark McGwire will lead it off.
Big Mac with a couple of walks. Hasn't had too much to swing at today.
He's not going to swing at that ball. 1-0. Look at where Blauser's playing McGwire. He's back on the outfield grass at shortstop.
So is Tyler Houston at 3rd. I guess he doesn't figure Big Mac's going to bunt. They're giving him the bunt.
Checked his swing. Wouldn't that be something if he squared around and just pushed one past the mound? That'd be incredible.
Yeah. The Cubs would invite that. I don't think Maris had many bunt singles in 61.
2-0. Well, we'll get our crack researcher Pete Tolman to find out for us. By the way, good news in Colorado. Hideo Nomo has loaded the bases for the Rockies. Nobody out. They've already scored 3 times against him. 4-3 in favor of the Mets. Right through there from Karchner. 3 balls and a strike.
Well, looking at those numbers, McGwire against Karchner, you can understand why he'd be a little hesitant to get the ball over the plate.
Boy, there's a buzz every time these sluggers come to the plate. The 3-1. Off the end of his bat foul. 3-2. I was asking Red Shadings about McGwire again before the game. I said, does he remind you of any of those sluggers you play with in Milwaukee? He said he hits the ball harder than any of them. Think about Adcock, Matthews, Henry Aaron. That's high praise. And a breaking ball struck him out. Mack has not liked that outside corner call all day today, and all he can do is just laugh as he takes his 2nd strikeout back to the bench.
Mark McGwire says, I don't believe it. Tom Hallion said it was good enough. Watch it again. It is a slider, and it's a good one. As you can see, that ball came in thigh high. When it crossed the plate, dipped lower. That was a good call by Tom Hallion.
So Langford hits with 1 out, pops it immediately up into shallow left. Blauser calls everybody off. He's got it. And there's out number 2. 2 up, 2 down in the Cardinals' 7th for Ronnie Gant. Mabry telling McGwire, hey, if you need any tips on hitting home runs, I can tell you how to do it. It was Mabry's home run. That's the difference in this score. It's 2-1. No balls and a strike. No balls and a strike. 0-2. Karchner throwing pellets here. Oh, and 2 to Gant. Bases clear, 2 outs, and now he steps out. Florida 3, San Diego 3 in the bottom of the 2nd inning. That game down in San Diego. The 0-2. Where was that? Karchner thought he had him struck out. 1-2. Later tonight, the Pirates in Los Angeles. Peters against Park.
L.A. only 4 out in the wild card race.
Tommy Lasorda guaranteed a playoff berth for the Dodgers. We'll see if that comes true. The only way that's going to happen is the wild card. Atlanta will be in San Francisco. John Smoltz against Mark Gardner. And a fielder's choice has tied the game in Colorado 4-4 off the bat of Nefi Perez. First and third, 1 out in Denver against New York. The 2-2. Breaking ball just missed with that. Now it's Larry Walker batting against Nomo. Milwaukee beat Cincinnati 4-3 today. Montreal beat Arizona 8-2. Here it's 2-1 St. Louis in the bottom of the 7th inning. The payoff. Got him swinging with a good breaking ball. 3 up, 3 down in the Cardinals 7th. To the 8th we go. Johnson, service, and a pinch hitter. We go to the 8th inning. Cubs need a run to tie. It's 2-1. How did that happen? Well, let's open up our Ameritech playbook.
The 6th pinch home run of the year for the Cardinals, and it's John Mabry off Don Wengert, and he got enough of it to give the Cardinals the lead. And your Ameritech playbook is when you're behind, hit a home run.
Mabry RFD puts him up 2-1. Now Lance Johnson leading it off in the 8th. Johnson 0 for 3 with 2 flyouts to left.
Lance, another man happy that Darren Oliver is out of the game. He handled him rather easily, but now he gets to face a right-hander.
Downstairs a ball and a strike. Our senior producer director of Cubs baseball is Arnie Harris. Today's game produced by Pete Toma. Our associate producer, John Walgren. Kim Fields, our coordinating producer, and the executive producer of WGN Sports is Bob Borwald. Lance puts a charge into a ball, but not charged highly enough. 1 away.
Now Brant Brown will come on to pinch hit for Scott Service.
So Brown in the 8th. And Frascatore continues to mesmerize the Cubs.
It looks like Sandy Martinez will, at least for the moment, stand in the on-deck circle.
He swings the first pitch, hits it a mile high in the air, but not deep enough. 2 down.
And Sandy Martinez will indeed come on to pinch hit.
Well, make or miss here from Martinez. At least the Cubs will have the top of their order due up in the ninth. Lauser, Morandini, and Grace with Sosa in the cleanup spot.
Matt Carter went 1 in the 3rd inning with 2 strikeouts.
He swings and lost the handle on the bat, hit the umpire with it. That doesn't feel good.
Tom Lampkin doing what a lot of umpires will do when catchers get hit, and that is go out there and let him collect himself. Tom Hallion appreciates that. Matt Karshner did a nice job in relief of Wengert. 1 in the 3rd innings, 2 strikeouts.
And zeros all across.
And it'll be Heredia coming in.
Colorado's put 5 on the board in the 4th. They lead the Mets 6-4 at Coors Field. So good news there. Hopefully that tally will continue for the Cubs. Hopefully we can turn this thing around. 2-1 in favor of St. Louis. Sandy hits it a high fly ball into shallow left field. Who wants it? Gant is there. He gives way to Langford in center. And the Cubs are retired 1, 2, 3 in the 8th. Bottom half comes your way. It's 2-1 St. Louis. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning. It's 2-1 in favor of the Cardinals. A couple of changes for the Cubs. Sandy Martinez takes over behind the plate. And on the mound is left-hander Felix Heredia.
Heredia threw the ball well yesterday. Had some trouble Friday night. 0-3, 5.52 ERA, on for the 45th time with a couple of saves. Walks has been a problem. 33 and 44 innings. And he will face Fernando Tatis, who has been held down today, but the Cubs have not been able to hold him down overall in this series.
He's 0 for 3 today. Let's keep it an offer as Heredia fires way outside. Two to one St. Louis, despite the low score. Respectable pitching efforts from Wengert and Oliver. It has not been a very crisply played defensive game. 3 errors by the teams, and there could have been maybe a couple more. And the Cubs need to score a couple of runs to avoid being swept here in St. Louis, and not the way you want to start a 9-game road trip.
Well, first they need a scoreless inning out of Felix right here.
1-1. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Felix came in, had some trouble with the right-handers in the 6th inning of Friday night's game, giving up a couple of runs on 4 hits, but then came on yesterday and threw the ball well.
Popped up back toward us. Sandy gives chase, scatters the ball, boys, and has no play. Willie Blair now pitching for New York in a 6-4 Colorado game.
He's familiar with that ballpark. He was once a Rocky.
And he just walked the first man he faced.
As I said, he's familiar with that ballpark.
Yes, he is.
The Houston seem to be doing fairly well today.
Well, they are. It's only 9-1, though. Popped up. This one might stay in play, and it will. Mark Grayson foul ground is under it. He puts the squeeze on it, and leadoff man retired here in the 8th inning. 1 out for Lampkin before he bats. Friends, we invite you to join the Cubs for the 1998 Walk of Fame induction ceremony, Friday, August 21st. This year, Cubs fans voted in Wrigley Field favorites Andre Dawson, Bill Buckner, and Rogers Hornsby. They'll be honored during a pregame ceremony at 1:45 p.m. This year's Walk of Fame celebration is presented by Ticketmaster. Here's Lampkin 0 for 2 with a walk. 2-1 Cardinal lead. They bat in the bottom of the 8th inning. Ball 1 misses low.
Eli Marrero in the on-deck circle. He'll come on to pinch hit. And we'll probably bring Jeff Brantley into the game.
Roller foul behind home plate. A triple by Colorado. 8-4 Rockies lead now. They've scored 7 times in the 4th.
And there is Jeff Brantley, man who threw the ball so very well with Cincinnati before undergoing arm surgery. He does have 13 saves but a high ERA.
2 balls and a strike. Crowd still exhausted after yesterday's proceedings.
They've been very quiet today.
To the shortstop. Blauser to his right. Fields that one cleanly and retires Lampkin by a step. And now Marrero will hit in the pitcher spot.
Marrero, one of the villains from yesterday, for the home run against Rod Beck that tied it at 8-8. That's coming in the 12th inning. This young man has some skills, and he looks like he's going to be here for a while. Out of Havana, Cuba. He comes into this one hitting .260. As a pinch hitter, however, he's 0 for 4.
By the way, that triple in Colorado off the bat of Todd Helton, their young first baseman. He's got a chance to be the Rookie of the Year this year. I think it's turning into a 3-way race now. Helton, Lee, and Wood. Marrero swung late and fouled it off. It's 0-1. Looking ahead to the ninth, Blauser, Morandini, and Grace are scheduled in a 2-1 game.
Remember, in just 36 and a third innings, Jeff Brantley has given up a whopping 9 home runs.
So don't change the channel just yet. Stick around. We've got a ways to go in this one. One ball, one strike. Way out in front. He pulled a string there, 1-2. Sammy will bat fourth, we hope, in the ninth inning. He scored the only Cub run of the day. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Bases clear in the 8th inning at Busch Memorial Stadium in St. Louis. Strike 3, a laser beam froze it. Heredia and Karchner work a 2-inning and a third stint perfectly here in St. Louis. Now it's time for the bats to do their job. 2-1 Cardinals as we go to the 9th inning. It sure would be nice if the Cubs could score a pair right here in the 9th inning. It's 2-1 in favor of the Cardinals, and the Redbird closer Jeff Brantley will face the top of the Cubs order here in the 9th inning.
And there was a time a couple of years ago when it would be automatic for Brantley. Those days are over. He's 0-5, 4.95 ERA, on for the 38th time. He's got 13 saves. But as we told you, he's given up a whopping 9 home runs in 36 and a third innings. He is coming back from arm surgery, showing some signs of occasionally having the stuff that he had a few years back in Cincinnati. He's still not all the way back. And for this team to be successful next year, they need a healthy Jeff Brantley.
So as he continues his warm-up tosses here in the ninth, the top of the order is due up. Many of the fans have remained at Busch Stadium, and as they enjoy our 2-1 ball game, let's pause quickly for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN, Chicago.
Jeff Blauser will lead things off. Jeff 0 for 4, 1 for 12 in the series. Another fielding miscue for him today. 3 in as many games.
Brantley had 44 saves to lead the league in 1996, then had shoulder problems. Tatis over toward the line at third. He's in close, and a big gap between Ordaz and Tatis if Jeff can pull it to the left side.
So Brantley goes to work, and the first pitch misses. Ball 1. Brantley said a little while ago that one of the most confounding things for him as he comes back from the aforementioned arm problems is that one day he'll throw 92, 93. The next day he's throwing 88. He can't figure out why that's the case. That's right through there, a ball and a strike.
Well, he's thrown it up there 90 miles an hour today. The question is the movement. And if it doesn't have any movement, 90 is not good enough unless you hit a perfect spot.
1 ball, 1 strike. 1-2. Darren Oliver could win it for the Cardinals. Don Wingert could be the tough luck loser. And Jeff just did get a piece to stay alive. Mark Grace will hit third. He's on the top step of the dugout. Blauser would love to reach to open up the Cubs' ninth. It's 2-1. That barely missed, but miss it did. The umpires in the crowd thought it was good enough. Two balls, 2 strikes. Back out of play. The Cubs are 21-18 this year in 1-run ball games. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The pitch. Missed it out of play. Good at bat by Jeff so far.
Amazingly enough for the Cardinals, 8 of their last 12 games have been one-run games. And against Brantley, Jeff has hit a couple of home runs and had pretty good luck. And that's when Brantley was throwing real well.
2-2. The Cardinal closer ready. Foul back again. Better rip that time from Jeff. He was right on that pitch, but fouled it back out of play. We're in San Francisco tomorrow night. Kevin Tampany against Russ Ortiz. But first things first here in the ninth. The 2-2. Breaking ball hit high in the air into left. No carry to it. Gant gives way to Langford in left center, and he puts it away for out number 1.
You have to go at it until you hear the center fielder call. Ron Gant thought he had that in left center, but as soon as he heard Ray Langford, he just peeled away and let Ray make the play. Fitting the 0 for 5 collar on Jeff Blauser. You see Gant calling for it, and then he says, let me get away from you. I think your hands are a little bit better. And he made the catch.
Base is clear for Mickey Morandini, who looks to extend his hitting streak to 5 games. He is 0 for 4 today, as you saw. Right through there, strike 1. The Cubs in danger of dropping their 8th game in their last 13 tries.
And they're 6th in their last 7. But still 2 big outs to go.
A ball and a strike to the Cubs second baseman.
And a fairly shaky closer.
The John Mabry pinch hit home run in the 6th. The difference in this ball game. Mickey fooled by that delivery. 1-2.
It's like a forkball, and that's one of the things that Brantley has worked on to try to combat a fastball that's not quite as hard as it used to be.
One and 2. Bouncer to the right side. Kelly backs up from the edge of the outfield grass. 2 down. So now it's up to Mark Grace.
Oh, if Gracie can keep it alive, it'll set up some late game heroics from Sammy Sosa again, and there is a broom that the Cubs hope to avoid.
Grace is 0 for 3. Morandini's hit streak ends at 5 games. Grace tries to keep his 4-gamer alive right here. Strike 1. A ball and a strike. The Mets trailing in Colorado 8-4. That game now in the 5th inning in Denver. San Francisco plays later. 1 ball, 1 strike. Checked his swing. 2-1.
Sluggers in the series, a lot of walks, 12 of them between the two. 1 homer apiece. But maybe another chance for Sammy Sosa if Mark can keep it alive.
2 balls, 1 strike. Old foul. 2-2. We're down to our last strike.
Fans on their feet here in St. Louis. And it's a sea of red as you look around the ballpark.
And we'll park this sea of red and not see the Cardinals for a couple of weeks when they'll be back in Wrigley Field. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, bases empty. Cardinals leading 2-1 here in the ninth. The delivery. Swung on and lined hard and foul out of play. The 2-2 pitch. Full count, 3-2. La Russa does not want to see Sosa until next week.
And that's what he's probably telling Duncan right now. He wants Brantley to make it happen here one way or the other. But he does not want to see a walk.
The 3-2. He walked it. And Sosa will bat with a chance to put the Cubs in front. Now, we've seen some crazy things this year. La Russa will walk out to the mound. Pretty close. Not what your manager wants to have to deal with. And now, the point I was going to make, Buck Showalter walked Barry Bonds with the bases loaded. Would you walk Sosa here and take your chances with Henry Rodriguez?
Not a chance in the world. This is my closer. It's a right-hander against right-hander. And regardless of what Sammy does, you got to let Brantley get Sammy out. If he doesn't, then you tip your hat to Sammy, but you do not walk him where a single ties up the game. Home runs allowed in relief. Nobody has allowed more than the Cardinals. And Jeff Brantley gives up a home run every 4 innings of relief work.
So here's Sammy against Brantley. Strike called, 0-1. Yesterday, Sammy came through in the ninth with a game-tying home run. Can he come through today and put the Cubs in front? The 0-1. Foul back. What a cut he had.
Boy, he was right on it because he fouled it straight back. That one out away, and it was up. Watch it again. This is hittable. Oh, right over the middle. It settled back, and Sammy just was under it. And Tony La Russa can't believe that that fastball that was supposed to be low and away was out over the plate. Tony is saying, get it in. I want it in.
0-2. Brantley ready. Swing and another foul back. Same pitch. And look at La Russa. He gets the ball down.
I don't want it out over the... That's what he's telling Lampkin. Get out there and tell Brantley to get it down before we're down a run.
Oh, man, I love it. Our Tony La Russa cam getting to work out here in the ninth.
Well,
man,
that
oh,
one
man,
right
down
in a
the middle.
hittable spot. And Sammy just fouled it back, and Tony can't believe it.
He's going to have an antacid commercial by the time this series is over. 2 balls, or no balls, 2 strikes, 2-1 game.
Well, I got to believe you waste one here. You got to throw it in the dirt. Hope that Sammy swings at it.
Brantley sets the 0-2. He didn't waste it, and Lampkin almost got crossed up. 1-2. This is unbelievable.
Tony's calling somebody who can get the ball down.
Well, they've got Lance Painter out there. He's their lone lefty. 1-2. 2-1 Cardinals.
LaRussa can't believe it. Brantley finally got a pitch where he wanted it. And Alien said it was just a little outside.
You could see his hair turning grayer by the minute.
A lot of tension here in the 9th inning. Here's Slugger up. And he's going to stay away again with a fastball.
The 2-2 pitch. Here it is. Got him swinging. And the Cardinals sweep the Cubs. Final score 2-1 here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. The Cubs leave 12 men on base in this ball game, and the John Mabry pinch home run proves to be the difference in what was a very important game on Sunday in St. Louis.
Well, for the first time in a long time, the Cardinal bullpen was absolutely unhittable. Frascatore came in for 2, gave up a hit. That was it. Jeff Brantley, who's been through a lot of trials and travails, made the big pitch when he had to. He wanted to stay away and down the hole at bat. He finally got it right where he wanted it, and Sammy just swung through it. Tony La Russa, seeing the location, finally gets the out he was looking for. The Cardinals sweep the Cubs in what for the Cubs is a devastating 3-game loss in St. Louis. Not to mention the fact that Houston is going to win 3 at home. The Cubs now will have lost 4 in a row, and this was not the way you wanted to start, Chip, what you knew would be the single toughest road trip of the year.
Cubs might be 7.5 back of Houston in the Central Division at day's end, depending on what Philadelphia can do. We have to look for a little help from Colorado and from the Atlanta Braves if the Cubs are to maintain their half-game lead in the wild card race. Right now, the Mets are tied with us after Jeff Brantley and the Cardinals shut us down in the 9th, 2-1. Your final score. Here's a look at our Budweiser play of the game. The situation the Cubs were looking for. A man on, 2 outs in the 9th, and Sammy Sosa swung right through. A terrific Brantley pitch. Tony La Russa, agonizing over a couple of the earlier pitches in the sequence, celebrates a 2-1 Cardinal win and a 3-game weekend series sweep over the Cubs. A crushing blow for the Cubs, who've now dropped 4 in a row, 7.5 back, pending the outcome of that Houston game, which will probably be an Astro win. The wild card race is even as the Mets and Rockies currently battling in Denver. 2-1 our final. Back with a final word after this. Here's a look at our final line score from the game today in St. Louis. It was a terrific game, a terrific series, a lot of fun, but bad outcomes for the Cubs as we're swept 3-0 by the Cardinals, who win it today. 2 runs, 5 hits, 2 errors for St. Louis. The Cubs a run, 5 hits, 1 error. The big stat in the game, the Cubs left 12 men on base. Darren Oliver picks up his first National League win. Don Wengert, a tough luck loser. He's 1-2. Jeff Brantley saved it with his 14th of the year, and John Mabry's home run, the big blow in the game, a pinch hit homer in the 6th inning off Wengert, that decided today's ball game. Our next telecast of Cubs baseball from a 3-Comp Park in San Francisco. Kerry Wood against Oral Hershiser. Join us at 2:30 Chicago time for the second game of that 3-game series. The Cubs have dropped 4 in a row. We're 2-6 in August, and the wild card lead has been cut to none. Pending the outcome of the Mets-Colorado game, the Cubs will either be a half game back or still a half game ahead in the wild card race. So we need some help. Cardinals win it 2-1. Your final score. For Steve Stone, Arnie Harris, and the entire crew, this is Chip Carey inviting you to stay tuned for the 10th inning show. It's coming your way right after this timeout.